Chapter 478. Master, does it still hurt? Seeing Sui touch his lips, Linda immediately asked in a concerned voice. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. It doesn't hurt, but like this, it won't be better by the time we get home. If Steele sees this, what should I say? Linda covered her mouth as she secretly laughed. Who told Master to be careless, being forcefully kissed by Princess Caroline? If the madam saw this, she would immediately know what happened. Sui angrily glared at her. If Steele asks, I'll say that you bit me. The madam wouldn't believe you. She knows that I'm not that bold. Seeing Linda secretly laughing, Sui gave a helpless sigh. He thought that this matter wouldn't be clear. The best method was to honestly explain to Steele when they got back. Perhaps he could even obtain Steele's forgiveness. Seeing the magic car enter Anvil City's gates, Sui shook his head and didn't think about this anymore. After getting out, Sui brought Linda to Samo Count's yard. Manager Ram had received Samo Count's notice 2 days ago and knew that Sui was coming today, so he had prepared ahead of time. When he saw Sui and Linda appear, he immediately came forward to welcome them. Chairman Su, Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes are already waiting for you in the living room. Sui was surprised. Viscount Leslie? When did he come back? Before Manager Ram could reply, there was a laugh that came from the yard. It hasn't even been half a month since I came back. I never thought that I would see you today. Sui turned with a look of pleasant surprise before coming forward with a wide smile. Lord Viscount, long time no see. Viscount Leslie laughed. Sui, you are now a Viscount, you can't call me that like before. Sui hurriedly shook his head. The way I address the Viscount has nothing to do with the rules of the Royal Parliament. It's purely out of respect from the bottom of my heart. Viscount Leslie turned to Baron Hannes on the side and said, Look, after not seeing each other for 2 years, Sui has become even better at talking compared to before. No wonder New Flyer has developed so well. Baron Hannes shrugged. I think he's right. Otherwise, according to the rules of the Royal Parliament, wouldn't I have to address him as Lord Viscount every time I see him? Sui and Viscount Leslie looked at each other before breaking out in laughter. All right, let's not bother about those stupid rules of the Parliament of Nobles. We're all old friends, so we can call each other whatever we want. Sui, you and Hannes are the same, just call me Leslie. No matter what, you're a very famous person in the kingdom and not a small merchant with no status like before. You can't call me that like before, Viscount Leslie said. Sui hesitated a bit before nodding. All right, Viscount. Leslie, after you come back this time, what are you planning to do next? This is what I wanted to discuss with you. I discussed it with your company's manager Flame in Anvil City before, and he told me that he couldn't make the final decision, so I decided to wait for you to come back. You need to discuss it with me. Sui was a bit confused. He looked at Baron Hannes with a questioning look in his eyes. Baron Hannes shook his head. Viscount Leslie laughed as he pulled Sui and walked out of the courtyard. Let's go, I've already booked a banquet at the Chanel restaurant. We're not going home until we're drunk tonight. Sui could only helplessly signal to Manager Ram and have him take care of Linda. He was sandwiched between Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes as they left the courtyard. Hashtag, if it's the Northern Army, it really is hard. Viscount Leslie gave a deep sigh. His eyes were filled with memories and emotions. You never would have thought that in the snowy environment of the northern border, where people could freeze to death at any time, the Northern Army soldiers didn't even have a single coat to wrap themselves in. Then wouldn't many people freeze to death? Baron Hannes on the side couldn't help asking. Not many people freeze to death. Viscount Leslie shook his head. But it's true that several dozen people freeze to death in the Northern Army each year. Baron Hannes and Sui looked at each other with a trace of unwillingness in their eyes. They were already halfway through the banquet and half drunk. When Viscount Leslie heard the two of them ask about his situation in the Northern Army, He immediately opened his mouth and began to talk. Why are the Northern Army soldiers' bodies so strong? Actually, it's because when it's winter, in order to prevent them from freezing to death, they can only keep training to warm their bodies. But because they don't have enough supplies, they don't have enough food to eat. If they train too much, their bodies won't be able to keep up. But if they don't train, they will freeze to death. So every winter, the Northern Army has to decide how to train based on how much food they have. They even have to change the training plan every few days, otherwise people will die. Sui couldn't help knitting his brows. I've heard Major McConley say that the Northern Army spends at least 200,000 gold coins each year. Although it isn't enough to improve the equipment, it can't be that they don't even have enough food to eat, right? Viscount Leslie looked at Sui and gave a cold laugh. 200,000 gold coins? Do you know how many gold coins are spent on the Northern Army soldiers in the end? Sui was silent. Although he didn't have much contact, just based on Major McConley's words, he could tell that the corruption in the Lampari Kingdom's army was very serious. The kingdom's treasury gave the Northern Army 200,000 gold coins, but in the end the Northern Army didn't even have 50,000 gold coins. In this situation, the Northern Army could persist for all these years, not letting the Sac Kingdom take a step further. It could be seen just how tenacious the Northern Army's battle strength and will were. Then what about during this time? His Highness Eric is leading the Northern Army. He won't lack supplies, right? Baron Hannes asked. His Highness wants to win this war and establish his prestige, so I think he won't mistreat the Northern Army soldiers. Is that so? Viscount Leslie thought of when he left the Northern Army. His Highness Eric had treated him to a table of dishes that even he felt were too luxurious. He gave another cold laugh, but he didn't make any comment. Viscount Leslie didn't say anything and the table fell into silence. Sui looked at Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes, who were thinking at the same time. He gave a cough and asked Viscount Leslie, "Let's not talk about these disappointing things." Leslie, you said that you had something to discuss with me and it was related to your future plans? Just what is it? Viscount Leslie put down his wine cup and said with a serious look, I mentioned this matter to your company's manager Flame before, but he might not have told you, so I'll say it again. Sui, I want to cooperate with your new flyer to open a magic machine factory. What do you think? Sui was stunned. You want to cooperate with our company? In your name or in the name of your stag family? Viscount Leslie said with a smile. I'm not the head right now, so of course I can only represent myself. Sui knit his brows. If you do this, your family won't have any objections? This is my own matter. They aren't qualified to comment on me. Viscount Leslie waved his hand. Sui, just tell me if it's all right or not? Of course. Actually, Leslie, you already had shares in our company before. If you didn't take the initiative to withdraw, you would be a major shareholder of our company and wouldn't need to discuss cooperation with me. Sui honestly said. There's no need to mention the past. Moreover, to be honest, I'm glad that I made such a wise decision back then. Otherwise, because I had shares in New Flyer, I don't know how those annoying fellows in the family would force me. Sui and Hannes looked at each other, seeing the worry in each other's eyes. Based on Viscount Leslie's words, his situation in the Stag family after he came back wasn't that good. In this situation, he actually came to discuss opening a magic machine factory with Sui. Wasn't this clearly going against the will of the family? Leslie, have you thought about the consequences of doing this? Sui asked in a deep voice. Viscount Leslie revealed a faint smile. Relax, I'm more clear on these matters than you. Sui nodded and took a deep breath before saying, All right, since you've already made your decision, as a friend, I will do my best to help you. Speak, what kind of magic machine factory do you want to open? How do you want to cooperate with our company? Viscount Leslie shook his head. It doesn't matter what kind of factory it is or how we cooperate, it's fine as long as we cooperate with your new flyer." Hearing this response, Sue and Baron Hannes took a cold breath at the same time. If the two of them were only guessing before, they were already certain now. Viscount Leslie, this was clearly going against the will of the Stag family and going against the family. But although he was the eldest son of the Stag family's head, and was considered the most likely candidate to become the next head, going against the family like this wouldn't have a good ending. The Stag family was recognized as the most powerful family in the Lampari kingdom other than the royal family. The power they had was not something a single person could compare to. How could Viscount Leslie go against the family? Sue was silent for a while before slowly asking, "Leslie, from the standpoint of me, the new flyer, and even Her Highness 70, I hope that you can do this. But from the standpoint of a friend, I really hope that you won't do this since there are no benefits for you." "That's right, this will only cause you to suffer a loss, so how about you forget it?" Baron Hannes also advised. Coming from a large noble family, Baron Hannes knew better than Sue the price and courage needed to go against the family. Viscount Leslie shook his head. "In this world, there are some things that you want to do regardless of the cost." After pausing, he continued, "Especially after I've been in the Northern Army for 2 years. Seeing Viscount Leslie's determined expression, Sue knew that persuasion was useless. After thinking about it, he reached his hand out to Viscount Leslie. "All right then, Leslie, welcome to the ranks of the magic industry." Chapter 479. After the evening party was over, Viscount Leslie returned home alone. Sue went with Baron Hannes to a secluded courtyard in the eastern part of Anvilmar City. Before they even entered the courtyard, they saw several luxurious horse carriages turn the corner and stop in front of the courtyard. After a while, a group of beastmen girls with various beastmen characteristics but beautiful human girls jumped out of the carriage. After seeing Sue, the beastmen girls of the New Moon Troop all let out happy cries at the same time as they came over. "Sir Chairman, you're back." The one running in front was the fox girl Avril. Sue looked over the dazzling accessories on Avril's body, as well as the finely made clothes she was wearing. The material wasn't bad and the clothes fit her perfectly. He could tell with a single glance that these were luxurious clothes made for her by a famous craftsman. He couldn't help knitting his brows before revealing a smile. "That's right, I'm back. Ladies of the New Moon Troop, have you been happy in Anvilmar these past few days?" "Very happy." "That's right, it's been too good. This place is much better than the Black Rice Wasteland. I don't want to go back." "I don't want to go back either, it's much better to stay here." "Sir Chairman, can we stay in Anvilmar City?" Hearing a cat-tail girl ask this question, all the girls stopped chattering and looked at Sue with expectant gazes. Sue gave a shrug. "You should ask Steele about this and see what she plans. After all, she is your chairman and I'm not." "Sir Chairman, you are Chairman Steele's husband, she will definitely listen to you. Why don't you decide to let us stay? Chairman Steele will definitely agree." A rabbit girl said in a loud voice. "That's right, Sir Chairman, can you agree to us?" "Sir Chairman." Seeing the group of beastmen girls come over to him, Sue quickly raised his hands and said, "All right, I'll propose this to Steele. As for what she decides, I don't care." "That's great." The beastmen girls all cheered at the same time. "We can stay." Seeing the happy appearances of the beastmen girls, Sue couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. The living conditions of the beastmen in the Black Rice Wasteland were indeed too bad. It was no wonder that after the beastmen girls came to Anvilmar City and saw the good life here, they were so happy that they forgot about home. Waving his hand to let the beastmen girls go in first, Sue fell behind. After thinking for a bit, he said to Baron Hannes, "Although you said that you would wrap them up, I'm certain that the expensive accessories and clothes they're wearing right now weren't bought by you, right?" Baron Hannes shook his head with a wry smile. How could I possibly afford it? Do you see the necklace on Avril? It was sold for 6,000 gold coins at the last auction, and it was given to Avril by a noble in the city. Do you think I can afford it? Who is that noble? Did Avril accompany him to the auction? Sui asked with a frown. Baron Hannes looked at Sui with a strange expression. It was Felito. Felito. Sui thought for a bit and remembered that this Felito was the arrogant guy who bid against him at the last auction. Oh, why did he bring Avril to the auction? Hey kid, why are you acting dumb? Don't you know what Felito wants? He clearly wants to chase after Avril. Baron Hannes said with a look of disdain. I can guess that, but Avril is a beastman after all. Does he want to chase after her? Sui was a bit puzzled. Baron Hannes had an expression of being defeated by Sui. I say, kid, are you really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Avril is a beastman, but look at her appearance. What's the difference between her and a human beauty? If you really want to say it, her fox tail and furry ears make her even more charming than a human beauty. Let me tell you, Avril is now a big star in Anvilmar City. A lot of nobles want to chase after her. If a lot of nobles want to chase after her, then what ability does Felito have to chase after her? Sui was even more puzzled. Who told you that he has already chased after Avril? Baron Hannes rolled his eyes fiercely at Sui. Let me tell you, Felito only gave Avril a necklace worth 6,000 gold coins. The other nobles in the city have given her many things. It's not like there aren't any more expensive things than this necklace. But up until now, Avril hasn't shown any special interest in anyone. Sui was a bit surprised. He couldn't tell that Avril, this fox girl, was also a master of communication. She was actually able to interact with so many nobles in the city and make them willing to pay for her. Don't be so surprised. It's not just Avril, but every beastman girl in the new moon troupe is very popular in Anvilmar City. Although Avril is the most popular one, the other girls aren't treated any worse than her. Seeing the expression on Sui's face, Baron Hannes continued. Sui couldn't help laughing, so you're saying. My worries from before were a bit unnecessary? I never thought that the people of Anvilmar City would accept these beastmen girls so easily. Nonsense, these beastmen girls are each more beautiful than the last. Adding in the fact that they have the characteristics of the beastmen, it would be strange if they weren't popular. Sui shrugged. I thought that most of the humans hated the beastmen. That depends on who it is. If you found a group of strange-looking beastmen, do you believe that they wouldn't be chased out by the people of Anvilmar City? Then again, now isn't the time for a race war. Actually, we humans are very curious about other races. You creating this new moon troupe can be said to have satisfied a lot of people's curiosity. That makes sense. Sui nodded. Alright then. As for the arrangements for the new moon troupe, I'll go back and discuss it with Steel before making a decision. In the following period of time, I'll have to trouble you to look after them. Baron Hannes gave a bitter laugh. Looking after them for a while isn't a problem, but if I keep looking after them, I don't think I can handle the pressure. In order to keep the beastmen girls pure, I've offended quite a few nobles in this period of time to not let them do anything to the beastmen girls. Do you know that Felito has even warned me a few times because of this? Tell him to come find me if he has the ability, Sui said calmly. Baron Hannes looked at Sui in shock. Sui, it's only been half a month. How come I feel that you've become a lot more domineering than before? Sui gave a faint smile. Because I've thought it through. There are some things that it's not good to be too passive. Good, I like the way you are now. Before, you always acted like you were weak, so you had to endure everything. I've been unhappy with that for a long time. Actually, your new flyer isn't weak at all. You've been valued by a lot of people. Whether it's magic or other aspects, you're very strong. Why are you always so timid? Baron Hannes praised. Sui suddenly laughed. So that's how I was in your eyes before? Alright, I'll show you how different I am in the future. Then I'll wait and see. Baron Hannes laughed out loud, but then his face turned gloomy. But Sue, you can be rude to Felito, but you can't be like this to those beastmen girls, right? Why do you say that? Sue asked in shock. Because. Baron Hannes looked around and confirmed that the beastmen girls had returned to their own residences. Then he lowered his voice and continued, You saw it just now. These beastmen girls are very satisfied with their lives in Anvilmar City. They don't even want to go back to the Black Rice Wasteland. That's human nature, I guess. The living conditions in the Black Rice Wasteland are so bad. If it was me, I wouldn't want to go back either. Sue said. The key issue is that these beastmen girls are very popular in Anvilmar City. There are a lot of rich nobles and merchants pursuing them. After coming in contact with those nobles and merchants, they themselves are very tempted. In private, there are a lot of beastmen girls secretly coming in contact with those nobles and merchants. Sue's expression slightly changed. Then did they do anything? Hannes shook his head with a bitter smile. I can at most take care of their living arrangements and warn those nobles and merchants not to mess around with them. But if they want to, I can't do anything about it. Sue's expression became a bit ugly. He had still organized this new moon troop to change the image of the beastmen in the Lampari Kingdom. This would make it easier for the people of the Lampari Kingdom to accept beastmen workers and live peacefully with the beastmen. But if the new moon troop became the exclusive property of the nobles and merchants of Anvilmar City, then what difference would it be from when the humans captured the beastmen as slaves? Not only would it not help him achieve his goal, it might even have the opposite effect. Although from a human's point of view, having the beastmen as coolies and the beautiful women as playthings was more in line with the humans' interests, Sue's eyes were not that narrow. He hoped that the two races could complement each other. After knitting his brows and thinking for a bit, Sue said to Baron Hannes, I won't be going back to the courtyard today. I'll stay here for the night. Hannes stared blankly and looked at Sue with incomparable desire and surprise. Then he pointed at the courtyard where the beastmen girls lived and winked at Sue. Just as he was about to speak, he was glared at by Sue. Seeing Sue's serious expression, Hannes immediately swallowed the joke he was about to make. Chapter 480. As the curtain of night gradually fell, this secluded courtyard gradually fell into silence. Hearing the laughter of the beastmen girls gradually stop, a trace of disappointment appeared on Sue's face. He had patiently waited here for 2 hours, but there hadn't been a single beastmen girl that had come to find him. Of course, he wasn't waiting for a beastmen girl to take the initiative, rather he wanted to see if any of these beastmen girls had this kind of awareness. 2 hours ago, Sue had announced to these beastmen girls that he would be heading back to Banta City tomorrow. If there were any beastmen girls who wanted to go back with him, they could set off together. At the same time, he also said that after returning to Banta City, he would discuss with Steele about the future of the New Moon Troop. If there were any beastmen girls who wanted to stay in the New Moon Troop, of course they could stay. And if they didn't want to stay and wanted to find another path for themselves, he would also welcome them and do his best to make arrangements for them. In order to let these beastmen girls understand his meaning, Sue even clearly told them that his hope for the New Moon Troop was to let the beastmen show themselves to the humans of the Lampari Kingdom, changing the image of the beastmen in the minds of the humans. He didn't want the New Moon Troop to be a simple springboard that would allow them to live the luxurious lives of the humans. To put it simply, I don't want you to become the playthings of the human nobles or merchants. In the end, Sue even directly threw down these words. However, after saying this, Sue patiently waited in the room Baron Hannes had prepared for him for 2 hours, but there wasn't a single beastmen girl that took the initiative to come find him. Sue was naturally very disappointed, but thinking about it, he felt that his request for these beastmen girls was too high. For these beastmen girls, because they had always lived in the harsh black rice wasteland. Now that they came to Anvilmar City and saw the luxurious lives of the human nobles and merchants, it was natural that they would be attracted to them. Su-yi blaming and forcing them like this wasn't reasonable. Perhaps I should be a bit more ruthless? Su-yi looked at the last magic lamp in the courtyard where the Beastmen girls were resting, and a trace of hesitation appeared in his heart. Since this new moon troop bore his expectations, then when the direction of the new moon troop went against his expectations, he should forcefully reverse it. With his and Steele's ability to control these Beastmen girls, this was an easy matter. But Su-yi thought of the Beastmen girls' happy smiles when they talked about their lives in Anvilmar City. Su-yi's heart. There has never been a human who thought about Beastmen like me. Since this is the path that they have chosen, then let them be. Su-yi gave a bitter laugh and slowly shook his head before standing up to rest. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a white shadow appear on the path outside the door. Seeing Avril floating over, Su-yi couldn't help revealing a smile. "Avril, you haven't slept yet?" Avril lightly shook her head. Her furry fox ears shook twice in the night wind, giving her a playful feeling. Paired with her delicate and beautiful face, it was no wonder that she was the target of many nobles and merchants in Anvilmar City. "Sir Chairman, can I disturb you for a bit?" "Come in." After entering the room, Avril took the initiative to pour a cup of tea for Su-yi before respectfully standing in front of Su-yi. Only when Su-yi signaled to her did she sit in front of Su-yi. "If you have something to say, just say it." Su-yi maintained a gentle tone and expression. Avril gritted her teeth and seemed to hesitate. After a while, she seemed to have made a decision and forcefully nodded. "Sir Chairman, actually, we all understand what you just said to us, and we are all very grateful to you. Because from your words and the way you treat us, we all know that you are one of the few humans that truly treats us as equals, and those human nobles and merchants that chase us really only treat us as playthings." Su-yi looked at Avril with surprise. He thought that these Beastmen girls weren't brainless after all. "It seems like you are the representative they sent?" Su-yi said with a smile. "All right, tell me what you think and your decision." "Sir Chairman, actually, you might look down on us, but from our point of view, even if we are treated as playthings by those human nobles and merchants, as long as they give us a good living condition, we feel that even if we are treated as playthings, it is nothing. That means you're very clear on what you want." Su-yi nodded. "If this is your final choice, then I have no objections. But I have to warn you, if anyone makes this choice, then they must leave the New Moon Troop, because I need to maintain the purity of this troop." Avril shook her head. "Sir Chairman, you misunderstand. We actually just want a stable and comfortable life. After all, we all lived in the black rice wasteland before, and the conditions were very bad. I think you know that. Now that there is a chance to live a good life, no one wants to miss it." Su-yi gave a soft snort. "I said it before, this is your own choice and I won't interfere with you. But I have the right to interfere with this troop." Avril gritted her teeth and revealed a bitter expression. She shook her head and said, "Sir Chairman, you still don't understand what I mean. Actually we are all very uneasy." "Uneasy?" Su-yi looked at her with surprise. Seeing the panic, hesitation, and anxiety on Avril's face, he gave a slight nod. "You came from the black rice wasteland to live in our human world. It is normal for you to feel uneasy. But I feel that placing your hopes on the nobles and merchants chasing after you really isn't a good choice. We also understand this, but Sir Chairman, what choice do you want us to make?" Saying this, Avril looked at Su-yi with a hint of bitterness in her eyes. "Actually, Sir Chairman, the sisters of the troop have been chatting in private, and they all think that compared to the nobles and merchants of Anvilmar City, you are countless times better. If you're willing to accept us, everyone will be very happy." Seeing the hope in Avril's eyes, Su-yi revealed a trace of awkwardness. He gave a cough and waved his hand. If I do this, then what difference would there be between me and the nobles and merchants who want to treat you as playthings? So don't mention it again. Avril's face was filled with disappointment. She gave a sigh and shook her head. No, Sir Chairman, you are different because you treat us as equals from the bottom of your heart. You are not like the nobles and merchants of Unveil City who only respect us on the surface. Since you think I'm treating you as equals, then it's even more impossible for me to do this kind of thing. Sui took a deep breath and said with a serious expression, "All right, I understand what you're thinking. I've also said that I won't interfere with your decision. But I can promise you one thing." Avril blinked her large eyes that were filled with charm as she looked at Sui. "If you choose to stay in the New Moon Troop, then I will do my best to find a way for you to truly stand on your own in our human world and not rely on other humans. I can't guarantee that I can do it 100%, but I will do my best. If you believe me, then stay. If you don't believe me, then I won't interfere with your choice." Avril's beautiful eyes blinked and her expression changed. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but after pausing, she didn't say anything. After thinking for a bit, Avril respectfully gave Sui a bow before leaving. As soon as Avril left, Baron Hannes entered the room. "Sui, why are you doing this for the Beastmen?" Baron Hannes tightly knit his brows as he revealed a confused look. "Actually, your goal is to have the other race workers in the kingdom accept them, right? I feel that this is very simple. There are many other race workers working in your new flyer. Everyone already knows that they bring quite a few benefits, so it isn't hard to accept them. This is different." Sui shook his head. "Our new flyer accepted the other race workers quickly because of me, but it isn't the same for others. Even in the current Banta City, the other race workers are still discriminated against." Baron Hannes still said, "Could it be that you want all humans to treat other races equally? That is definitely impossible." "How do you know it's impossible if you haven't tried?" Sui looked at him. Hannes was a bit confused. "Sui, I still don't understand. Why do you want humans and other races to coexist peacefully? If you want to obtain something from the other races with the current strength of us humans, you can just force them to take it out. Why do you need to spend so much effort? You don't understand this. Alien races are called alien races because there are many differences between them and us humans. There are some things that even if they take it out, we humans can't learn. Perhaps we can obtain some benefits by forcing them, but we definitely can't obtain what we really need. So in order to obtain the best things from them, we need them to be willing. What? Has your new flyer tasted many benefits from the other races?" Baron Hannes asked. "Of course. I can even say that the reason why our Frestec Chamber of Commerce can develop this quickly is because of the other races in the company. If it wasn't for their work and contributions, New Flyer definitely wouldn't be as strong as it is now." Hearing the pride in Suyi's voice, Baron Hannes couldn't help smiling. "That's good, the powerful New Flyer's chairman Su. I hope that when you see those old men in the Royal Parliament tomorrow, you can still smile like this." Sui deeply knit his brows. Chapter 481. Returning to Unveil City this time, Sui wasn't just passing by. Actually, when he was still in Seoul City, he had been summoned by the Royal Parliament. They wanted him to come to Unveil City to participate in the Royal Parliament and evaluate his status as a noble. Being able to participate in the Royal Council was both good and bad news for Sui. The good news was that the Royal Parliament wanted a noble to participate in the Royal Council to evaluate their status as a noble. The reason for this evaluation was normally to promote a noble's title. In other words, as long as Sui received a good evaluation during this evaluation, it was very likely that his title would be promoted after this evaluation. He was already a Viscount of the kingdom, and in less than 2 years, he had the chance to become a count. This was something that was rare in the Lampari kingdom. Moreover, he had been promoted from a commoner to a noble, but he had been promoted in such a short period of time. Moreover, he hadn't obtained any military merits, so this was very rare. The bad news was that, in this evaluation, Su Yi's evaluation might be negative, and it wouldn't be a positive evaluation that would raise his noble rank. In the end, it was almost impossible for a commoner like Su Yi to promote his title in such a short period of time. So when he was still in Seoul City, Count Samo was certain that the royal parliament summoning Su Yi to the royal council had bad intentions. When he came to Anvilmar City and saw Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes, the two of them agreed with Count Samo's judgment. The royal council targeting Su Yi this time probably didn't come with good intentions. So the next morning, Su Yi came to the royal parliament that looked very luxurious from the outside. When he saw the golden words Lampari Kingdom Royal Parliament, he couldn't help letting out a sigh. He was just peacefully creating and developing the magic machine industry, so why did people cause trouble for him for all kinds of reasons? After reporting his name, Su Yi was quickly led into the royal parliament by the guards at the entrance. Then he was patiently waiting in a small reception hall. After a while, a young man who looked to be in his 30s wearing the purple robes of a parliament member came in. When he saw Su Yi, he immediately revealed a friendly smile and reached out his hand. Viscount Su, I've long heard of your name. I'm very honored to have the chance to meet you today. Su Yi shook his hand and said with a faint smile, You're too polite, may I ask who you are? Oh, let me introduce myself. My name is Sam Lim. I'm the same as you, a Viscount. Lim, I'm very honored to meet you. May I ask if you're a parliament member? When will the royal parliament? Lim laughed, Viscount Su, you're indeed a businessman who values time very much. However, the royal parliament still needs some time to prepare, so I'm here to inform you in advance. At the same time, it can also be considered as revealing the contents of the royal parliament to you. Viscount Su, you haven't participated in the royal parliament before, have you? Yes. Su Yi nodded. Regardless of whether he was promoted to a baron or a viscount, they were all directly bestowed by His Majesty the King. He did not participate in any of the noble council. According to the rules of the royal parliament, the king had the right to promote anyone below the rank of count. There was no need for the royal parliament to evaluate and approve it. However, the king rarely used this right. If the royal parliament didn't agree and questioned it, it would have a considerable impact on the king's prestige. Therefore, the king rarely used this right to promote a noble, let alone use it on the same person twice in a row. Of course, generally speaking, the royal parliament wouldn't really question the king's use of this right. Su Yi was now a viscount. Not only did he want to promote his title, but the royal parliament could also call for a royal parliament to evaluate his qualifications as a noble. Then I'll tell you the process of the royal parliament in advance. Viscount Su, you don't actually have to do anything during the royal parliament. You just have to answer the questions from the parliament members. Lim smiled. Of course, you have to be honest. Otherwise, if the parliament members say you're not honest enough, it will greatly affect your evaluation. Su Yi frowned slightly. If only the parliament members could ask questions, and he could only answer them, wouldn't it be no different from an interrogation? Generally speaking, every member of the council may ask you questions. The types of questions may also involve many aspects. I hope that Viscount Su can be mentally prepared. Su Yi thought for a moment and nodded. He didn't raise any doubts in his heart. Since he was already here, there wasn't anything else to consider. The royal parliament was different from the kingdom's parliament. At most, they could tamper with his noble status. However, he didn't care about the noble status that countless people in the kingdom yearned for, so he naturally didn't feel any pressure. Viscount Lim seemed to be surprised by Su Yi's calmness. He glanced at him in surprise, but didn't say anything. After chatting with Su Yi for a while, He led him out of the reception room and into a side hall of the Royal Parliament. On the way, they met many staff members in the Royal Parliament. When they saw Viscount Lim and Sue walking together, they all looked at Sue curiously. It seemed like they all knew that the Royal Parliament was going to have a discussion with Sue today. It was indeed rare to see a noble like Sue who was both a noble and a merchant. Adding on the new flyer's fame in the Lampari Kingdom, it wasn't strange that most people were curious about Sue. After entering the side hall, he found that it was a circular space. There were 2 rows of chairs around it, and there was an empty space in the center. There were no chairs, only a small fence. Seeing this arrangement, Sue couldn't help slightly knitting his brows. He was unhappy in his heart. It really looked like they were interrogating a criminal. Sue didn't believe that every meeting room in the Royal Parliament was set up like this. It was his first time participating in the Royal Parliament, yet he was assigned here. The other party's intentions were self-evident. Thinking of Count Samo, Viscount Leslie, and Baron Hannes' judgment, Sue coldly snorted in his heart. He raised his head to look at the members sitting high up in the chairs. This side hall wasn't very big, and there were only about 50 seats in the 2 rows of seats around it. Currently, these seats weren't fully occupied, and there were only less than 20 members in purple robes, making it seem a little empty. While Sue was looking at the members were also looking at Sue. It was clear that they were also curious about Sue. After both sides looked at each other for a bit, an old member sitting in the north who looked to be at least 60 gave a soft cough and said in a clear voice, "Since Viscount Sue is here, let's begin the discussion." After saying this, he looked at Sue and asked with a serious face, "Viscount Sue, do you know why the Royal Parliament sent you to participate in this discussion?" Sue shook his head. "No one has told me the reason yet." Alright, I'll tell you now. The reason why you were sent to participate in this discussion is because the Royal Parliament received many reports. They reported that Viscount Sue, as a noble of the kingdom, has done many things that don't match your status as a noble of the kingdom. In order to find out the truth, the Royal Parliament sent you to participate in this discussion. If you have indeed done these things, the Royal Parliament will give you a corresponding evaluation and punishment. He only talking about punishment. Sue gave a cold laugh in his heart. This old member immediately set the nature of this discussion. He really didn't come with good intentions as expected. Seeing that Sue was silent, Count Bassa, who was already 63 years old and had been the vice speaker of the Lampari Kingdom's Royal Parliament for over 20 years, was a bit unhappy. His face sunk as he said, "Viscount Sue, let me ask you a question first. Do you have another identity as the chairman of Banta City's new flyer?" Sue nodded, "Yes." Count Bassa nodded. "Do you have most of the shares in this new flyer and control it?" "Yes." "As the chairman of the new flyer, do you also participate in the business activities of the new flyer?" "Yes." "Do you also receive most of the income that the new flyer earns from doing business?" "This isn't accurate. Most of the income from the new flyer is used to invest, so I don't personally receive that much." Count Bassa nodded. "You just need to answer, do you receive any income from the new flyer?" Sue gave a faint cold laugh before nodding again, "Yes." "Then Viscount Sue, do you know that the Royal Parliament has rules for the nobles of the kingdom? As nobles of the kingdom, they can't do business?" "I do." "Then why do you still choose to do business?" Count Bassa suddenly slapped the table in front of him and his expression suddenly became serious. "Do you know that not only are you going against the rules of the Royal Parliament, you're also throwing away the face of all the nobles of the kingdom?" Sue looked at him with a bit of a funny gaze. "It's true that I'm going against the rules of the Royal Parliament, but to say that I'm throwing away the face of all the nobles of the kingdom. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated?" "You're not allowed to quibble." Count Bassa glared at him. "Viscount Sue, since you're going against the rules of the Royal Parliament and have a bad attitude, The Parliament has decided to strip Viscount Sui of his noble status and demote him to a commoner. Chapter 482. Hearing the verdict, Sui did not show any surprise. Instead, he laughed happily. Seeing Sui's reaction, Bossa Count and the other councillors were stunned. Bossa Count frowned and shouted, "What are you laughing at? This is the sacred royal parliament. You're not allowed to be so presumptuous." Sui shook his head. "I just found it funny. It's so difficult to obtain a noble's status, but it's so easy to be stripped of it. So it turns out that you can just ask a few questions and announce that you're stripping me of my noble status. Haha, don't you think that's too hasty?" Bossa Count's face darkened. "This is the Parliament's decision after careful consideration. Letting you participate in the council was just to give you a chance to explain, but you didn't do anything just now. You completely admitted that you violated the rules. Do you think there's a problem with receiving such a punishment?" No. I don't think there's a problem. I just wanted to laugh." Sui waved his hand and smiled. "When I was notified to participate in the council, I was still a little nervous. I didn't expect the process to be so simple. Even the outcome had been decided long ago. If I'd known, I wouldn't have come at all. It's a waste of time." "Presumptuous!" Bossa Count shouted angrily. "Sui, I'm warning you again. This is the sacred royal parliament. You're not allowed to be so presumptuous here." Sui gave a shrug. "Sir Vice Speaker, you seem to have forgotten something. You just said that the Parliament has decided to strip me of my noble status. So I'm now a commoner. Since I'm a commoner, the Royal Parliament can't control me, right? Deputy Speaker, if you're dissatisfied with me, I'll have to trouble you to complain to the Parliament or the police." Bossa Count pointed at Sui, trembling with anger. However, he could not find any fault with Sui's words. This was because, according to the rules of the Royal Parliament, although the Royal Parliament had the authority to manage the nobles, it was only limited to the nobles and had no authority to deal with the commoners. This was because the commoners were under the jurisdiction of the Royal Parliament. Sui was right. Now that he had been stripped of his noble status by the Royal Parliament and became a commoner again, it meant that the Royal Parliament no longer had the authority to control or restrict him. If Sui had been a commoner, the Royal Parliament would have found 10,000 ways to deal with him. However, Sui wasn't an ordinary civilian. On the contrary, he had a bunch of powerful bigwigs backing him. This time, the Royal Parliament, under the instructions of certain people, had to deliberately set up a council to deal with Sui. At the very least, there wouldn't be any mistakes on the surface. The other councillors looked at Sui with their mouths agape. They thought that Sui would definitely fight to be stripped of his noble status and strongly oppose the decision of the Royal Parliament. However, they didn't expect that Sui had no intention of denying or defending himself from the beginning to the end. After hearing Bossa Count's sentence, he didn't show any signs of agitation. Instead, he accepted it with unusual indifference. In fact, their original intention wasn't to strip Sui of his noble status directly. This was because directly stripping a noble of his noble status would have a huge impact, and the Royal Parliament wouldn't make such a decision easily. Their original plan was to hope that Sui would defend himself. Then, they would be able to take advantage of the situation and reduce the punishment on Sui to achieve their real goal, to weaken some of the benefits that Sui had obtained through his noble status, such as territory, tax exemption, policy benefits, and so on. This would indirectly weaken the new flyer. However, Sui didn't make any excuses now. He directly accepted the decision and showed such an attitude to Bossa Count. Even if Bossa Count wanted to follow the original plan and withdraw the decision to strip Sui of his noble status, he couldn't say it out loud. Looking at Sui, who was standing in the middle of the venue with a smile on his face, Bossa Count and the other councillors were speechless for a moment. Sui looked around and saw that everyone was staring at him blankly. He smiled and said, "Is there nothing else? If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I still have a lot of things to do, so I won't play with you guys here." Just as he was about to turn around, Boss Account roared, "Stop!" Sui stopped and turned his face to the side. He frowned and looked at Boss Account. "Sir Deputy Speaker, please pay attention to your demeanor as a noble. Don't you think it's rude to yell at a commoner like this?" Boss Account almost choked to death on his saliva. He was so angry that he coughed a few times. Then, he panted and said, "You can't leave yet. There are still some procedures to be done." Boss Account composed himself and took out a pile of documents that had obviously been prepared long ago from under the table. "Since you have been stripped of your noble status, then some of the privileges that you enjoyed as a noble should also be taken back. Here are some relevant documents. You have to sign them before you can leave." Sui took the documents from the hands of a young member of parliament and looked over them. He found that there were some things related to taking back Sui's private territory from when he was a viscount. Sui wasn't surprised by this, but there were some details in the documents that Sui objected to. "Sir Deputy Speaker, according to the private territory taking back agreement, wouldn't I have to hand over the entire Falling Rain Valley outside Banta City? Then what about the factories and other facilities of our new flyer in the Falling Rain Valley?" Hearing this question, Boss Account and the surrounding members let out a sigh of relief. Boss Account revealed a proud smile as he said, "How to take care of the factories and other facilities is unrelated to the Parliament. If New Flyer can't hand over the territory in the set time, then according to the rules, everything in the territory will be handed over along with the territory. This means that the Parliament is planning on chasing our New Flyer out of the Falling Rain Valley?" Sui asked. Boss Account revealed a righteous appearance. "Sui, I'm warning you, you are slandering the Parliament. I reserve the right to complain to the Royal Parliament." Sui gave a laugh. This Sir Deputy Speaker was clearly shameless, so there was no meaning in saying anything to him. After looking over the contents of the documents, Sui casually threw the documents to the side and said to Boss Account with a serious look, "Sir Deputy Speaker, I think I have to remind you. The Falling Rain Valley, including the area around the Falling Rain Valley, doesn't actually belong to me that much. The most important part of it is directly rented from the royal family. Although the Royal Parliament can take away my status as a noble and take back my private territory, the Royal Parliament has no right to meddle in this rented land." Boss Account snorted coldly. "Do you think the Parliament will make such a decision without investigating the situation? The Parliament obviously won't clean up the part of the land that New Flyer rented from the royal family, but you have to hand over the nearly 10 square kilometers of private territory in the Falling Rain Valley." Sui had a look of astonishment. "Sir Deputy Speaker, who told you that I actually have a private territory of nearly 10 square kilometers? I'm only a viscount. How can I have such a large private territory? You must have made a mistake somewhere." Boss Account waved his hand. "Don't be unreasonable. The Parliament has a record of the size of your private territory. How could there be a mistake?" No, I only applied to His Majesty for a private territory of at most a few thousand square meters in the hope of building a private manor for living. How could I request for a private territory of nearly 10 square kilometers? Even if I requested it, His Majesty obviously wouldn't give it to me. So you must have made a mistake. If you don't believe me, please ask His Majesty for confirmation." Boss Account chuckled and was sure that Sui was making a last-ditch effort. He said coldly, "There's no need. The Parliament will only make a decision based on the information in the Parliament. Besides, why would we bother His Majesty over such a small matter?" Boss Account suddenly paused in the middle of his sentence and stared straight behind Sui with an expression as if he had seen a ghost. The other councillors also had interesting expressions on their faces as they all stared blankly behind Sui. Su-yi turned around and saw a middle-aged man with a normal appearance who wasn't that tall, looking to be around 40 years old, slowly walking into the side hall. The middle-aged man nodded at Su-yi before turning to Basa Count and asking, "Deputy Speaker Basa, has Su-yi's parliament ended? Are the results out?" Basa Count's expression turned extremely ugly. He hesitated for a long time before answering, "It's already over. As for the results." Basa Count glanced at Su-yi and his expression turned even uglier. Viscount Su-yi has been stripped of his aristocratic status in accordance with the regulations because he deliberately violated the relevant regulations of the parliament. The middle-aged man nodded and then turned to ask Su-yi, "Chairman Su, are you now a commoner?" "Yes." Su-yi recalled in his mind and suddenly remembered that he seemed to have seen this middle-aged man once in the palace when he had an audience with His Majesty the King. And from the respectful attitude that Basa Count and the other councillors had towards him, it was very likely that this middle-aged man who didn't look special was a trusted aide of His Majesty the King in the palace. "Very well, since Chairman Su is now a commoner, then I'll now read out His Majesty's appointment for you." Seeing the middle-aged man take out an order with His Majesty the King's seal, Basa Count's heart skipped a beat and his expression turned extremely gloomy in an instant. In view of Su-yi's great contributions to the kingdom, His Majesty has decided to specially promote commoner Su-yi to the status of a baron as a reward. While Su-yi was still in a daze, the middle-aged man took out another order that was exactly the same and continued to read it out. In view of Baron Su-yi's great contributions to the kingdom, His Majesty has decided to specially promote Baron Su-yi to the status of a viscount as a reward. Apart from the way Su-yi was addressed at the beginning of the two orders, there was no difference in other aspects. From this, it could be seen that the middle-aged man had been prepared long ago and had made a special trip for Su-yi. When Basa Count heard these two orders, he said with a pained expression, "This, Supervisor Dima, Su-yi has just been stripped of his noble status by our royal parliament. For His Majesty to promote him to a noble at this time, I don't think it's too good?" Supervisor Dima glanced at him and said calmly, "I don't care about this. Anyway, I'm here on His Majesty's orders." His Majesty said that as long as Su-yi is stripped of his noble status by the royal parliament, then I'll read out these two orders. Also, these two orders will be effective forever. Hearing Supervisor Dima's words, Count Basa and the other councillors' faces instantly turned ashen. Chapter 483. Your Majesty, I am very grateful for the support and help you have given me. But for you to do this, isn't it a bit too forceful? The members of the parliament will definitely have opinions on your actions. Su-yi chose his words carefully as he asked this. Lampuri 13th looked at Su-yi. "What? You want to be stripped of your noble status?" Su-yi gave a shrug. "I don't care about my noble status that much. It's fine if it's taken away. The problem is that your Majesty's actions will cause dissatisfaction with the royal parliament. Because I am just a trivial viscount, it isn't worth it." "It's fine as long as I feel it's worth it." Lampuri 13th slowly shook his head. He looked at Su-yi with a gaze of deep meaning before asking in a deep voice, "Su-yi, if I don't care about this matter today, you will be stripped of your noble status, and your territory and privileges will be taken back. What will you do next?" "I won't do anything." Su-yi shook his head. "I don't have the ability to go against the royal parliament. Since they insist on doing this, I'll just hand over my territory and privileges." "Then what about the new flyer? What are you planning to do?" Lampuri 13th kept asking. "I can develop the new flyer to this point from nothing, so based on my current foundation, of course I'm confident in finding another place to develop." Su-yi said with a confident smile, "It doesn't matter where it is, as long as I'm here, the new flyer will still exist. Your confidence is quite strong." Lampuri 13th gave a nod of praise. Lampuri 13th gave a nod, "But it doesn't matter where you develop, I feel it is very important. The new flyer is such an important thing. If I let it slip away from our Lampari kingdom, I will become a sinner of the kingdom. Sui was surprised. Your Majesty, I never thought that you would place such importance on our new flyer. How could I not care? Lampuri 13th patted the stack of documents in his hand. There are countless data and examples here that prove that the new flyer has played a very positive role in the development of the kingdom. If I don't value it, what right do I have to be the king? Sui chuckled and rolled his eyes. Your Majesty, since you value our new flyer so much, why don't you give us some special privileges? Lampuri 13th found this a bit funny. Kid, you really know how to climb up, but I'll give you a chance. Tell me, what privilege do you want? If it's reasonable, I can promise you. He never thought that Lampuri 13th would be this easy to talk to. Sui was overjoyed and quickly said, Your Majesty, although you've given our new flyer free trade rights, I feel that this right isn't enough. What else do you need? Yes. Although this free trade right allows our company to trade with other countries and regions outside the kingdom, trade with enemy countries is strictly prohibited. So, Lampuri 13th narrowed his eyes. What? Could it be that you still want to do business with the Sac Kingdom? Could it be that you think the Sac Kingdom isn't strong enough? You want to give them some money to help them become stronger? Of course not. Sui immediately shook his head. Your Majesty, although our new flyer has always adopted a win-win strategy when doing business with the other side, in terms of doing business, it isn't hard to earn money from the other side. Trading with the Sac Kingdom won't help the Sac Kingdom become stronger, rather we can squeeze out their resources and money through this trade, weakening their strength. Is that so? Lampuri 13th was shocked as he asked in a curious voice, How do you do it? Give an example. Your Majesty, for example, if our company sells a magic air conditioner to the Sac Kingdom, do you think it will increase their strength? Of course not. Lampuri 13th shook his head. Lampuri 13th shook his head. Things like the magic air conditioner can only be used daily, it doesn't help increase the strength of the kingdom. But our company's latest magic air conditioner is priced at 28 gold coins. If we sell one to the Sac Kingdom, it's equal to earning 28 gold coins from the Sac Kingdom. This is equal to weakening the Sac Kingdom's funds and increasing the strength of our company. Lampuri 13th was silent for a bit before giving a slight nod. I can roughly understand what you mean. But the Sac Kingdom isn't that stupid. They will take whatever you want to sell them, so there will be restrictions. Sui said with a laugh, Your Majesty, I think that even if it is you, you should know about smuggling, right? Lampuri 13th's face sunk as he gave a cold snort. A company's chairman like you dares to mention smuggling in front of me, you really are bold. Sui wasn't afraid at all as he said with a smile, Your Majesty, not only do I want to mention smuggling in front of you, the privilege I want from you this time is related to smuggling? Lampuri 13th was instantly happy. What? Your new flyer also wants to smuggle? That's right. But what we want is legal smuggling. What is legal about smuggling? Are you joking? Lampuri 13th glared at Sui. Of course. Sui's smile disappeared and he said with a serious look, As long as it is under your Majesty's supervision and approval, it is naturally legal. Seeing that Sui wasn't joking, Lampuri 13th thought for a bit before suddenly looking at Sui and revealing a sly smile. Chairman Su, since you are a merchant, you should know what price you have to pay to obtain benefits, right? Sui gave a bitter laugh and spread his hands. Your Majesty, I am right here. You can slaughter me however you want. Lampuri 13th laughed. Then I won't be polite. ####. When Sui returned to the yard, Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes were waiting for him. Seeing Sui, the two had strange looks on their faces. Although there weren't many people who saw what happened at the royal parliament this morning, for the nobles of Anvilmar City, It wasn't a secret no matter what happened at the royal parliament, not to mention such a shocking scene. His Majesty had personally made a move to keep Su Yi's Viscount title from the royal parliament. Manager Dima had announced the two kings' orders in front of the royal parliament. To all the nobles in the city, it was no different from slapping the royal parliament in the face. Although the Lampari kingdom had been established for several hundred years and there had been many times when the king and the royal parliament had different opinions, even directly clashing with each other, something like this that slapped the face of the royal parliament in front of everyone rarely happened. His Majesty was simply telling everyone that no one was allowed to make a move against Su Yi. Before this, although many people knew that His Majesty placed great importance on Su Yi and the new flyer, they never thought that His Majesty would place such importance on Su Yi and the new flyer, even not hesitating to slap the face of the royal parliament. Just this matter made Su Yi the most famous person in the Lampari kingdom's circle of nobles, making countless people envious. However, when Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes looked at Su Yi, they didn't look happy at all. Su Yi, I feel that you are being used by His Majesty. Baron Hannes shook his head and said with a sigh, although protecting you from the royal parliament like this is very impressive, it also guarantees that no one will easily make a move against you in the future. But like this, those fellows in the royal parliament will definitely hate you to their bones and will definitely cause trouble for you in the future. Su Yi said with a smile, you think that without this matter they won't cause trouble for me? The decision of this council wasn't suddenly made. Baron Hannes thought about it before saying with a smile, that's also true, those old men in the royal parliament are all on His Highness Eric's side, so it's certain that they want to deal with you. His Majesty the King probably wants to use this opportunity to warn them. That's why it's fine to be used. You have to know that many people don't have the qualifications to be used by His Majesty even if they want to. You're quite open-minded. Viscount Leslie couldn't help smiling. I was worried that you would be hit by this matter and be disheartened, but now it seems like you aren't affected at all, so I can be assured. It's not right to say that I'm not affected at all. Su Yi shook his head and said with a sigh, at least I've recognized a fact through this matter. Whether I'm willing or not, I've already been branded by Her Highness 70. Just like you, Leslie, no matter what you think in your heart, you will still be considered a member of the Stag family. Viscount Leslie shook his head with a faint smile. Not only that, if I cooperate with your new flyer, everyone will think that the position of the Stag family has changed. The chain reaction created by this will definitely be very interesting. Su Yi and Baron Hannes looked at him in surprise. Baron Hannes couldn't help saying, hey, Leslie, you wouldn't have done this on purpose because you thought of this, right? Viscount Leslie smiled without replying. Su Yi said with a frown, Leslie, are you really going against your family by doing this? Why not? Viscount Leslie shrugged his shoulders. Viscount Leslie gave a shrug. If I don't do this before I'm kicked out of the family, wouldn't I be wasting my status as the family's eldest son? Seeing the self-deprecating smile on Viscount Leslie's lips, Su Yi and Baron Hannes looked at each other, seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes. They were clear that once Viscount Leslie decided on something, he definitely wouldn't be easily changed by others. Moreover, looking at his appearance, it was clear that he had already decided on this, so he wouldn't be swayed by others. But the problem was that even if he was the Stag family's eldest son, going against the entire Stag family was seeking his own death. Chapter 484. With his worry for Viscount Leslie, Su Yi left Anvilmar City and set off for Banta City that he hadn't seen in a month. What made him happy was that when he left Anvilmar City, of the 37 Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troop, including Avril, there were 35 that chose to leave with him and return to Banta City. The remaining Fox Girl and Rabbit Girl chose to stay. Su Yi didn't make it hard for them and had them sign the contract to withdraw from the New Moon Troop. Then he gave each of them 500 gold coins as severance pay before letting them go. Adding in Sue and Linda, there were a total of 37 people in the 2 medium-sized magic passenger cars that quickly set off for Banta City. According to Sue's plan, he would visit the new flyer branch in the cities on the way back, but because he had been outside for too long, Sue missed Steele very much. He gave the order not to stop on the way back and headed straight for Banta City. Banta City and Anvilmar City were already connected by roads, so with the magic passenger cars driving at full speed, in just an afternoon, Banta City was already in front of them. Looking at the familiar sandy river on the horizon that was reflecting the faint yellow light of the setting sun, Sue's heart was filled with the excitement of finally being home. It had been close to 7 years since he transmigrated to this world. The first 3 years were spent struggling to survive, so Sue couldn't feel at home in this world at all. Then he settled down in Banta City, founded the new flyer, got married, and was about to have a child, which made him feel that he had truly integrated into this world. It also made Banta City his home in this world, and the Falling Star Manor was naturally his home. After the magic passenger car passed by the newly built Banta Bridge over the sandy river, Sue had the driver not enter Banta City. They just took the road outside the city and prepared to head to the Falling Star Manor. After driving along the river for a while, Sue found that there was a group of people gathered by the river bank in front of him. It was unknown what they were doing with this crowd. Sue curiously looked out the window and found a familiar figure in the middle of the crowd. Why isn't she at home? Why is she here? With this thought, Sue used a wind control spell in front of the shocked cries of the Beastmen girls in the car. He flew out of the window and instantly crossed 100 meters, landing in the middle of the crowd. When a person suddenly fell out of the sky, the crowd was filled with shocked cries. When they saw the person's face clearly, everyone cried out in surprise again. Chairman Sue! It's actually Chairman Sue! Chairman Sue is back! Sue ignored the reactions of the crowd and looked at Steele, who was covering her mouth with a look of pleasant surprise and disbelief. He pulled her into his embrace without any politeness and pulled away her hand covering his mouth. He leaned in and heavily kissed her. The surrounding crowd burst into an uproar once again. Many people even whistled loudly and applauded loudly. After a while, Sue let go of Steele. Looking at Steele, who was panting with a slightly red face, he said with a faint smile, "Steele, I'm back." Steele revealed an incomparably happy smile. She reached out to touch Sue's face and said with a sigh, "Sue, you're thinner and darker. Did you have a bad time outside?" "Of course it's not as comfortable outside as at home, this is very normal." Sue laughed and then added, "This has nothing to do with Linda. You can't blame her for not serving me well." Steele rolled her beautiful eyes and glared at Sue. She snorted softly and said, "Of course she served you well. Do you think I don't know?" Hearing Steele's emphasis on the word served, Sue smiled awkwardly and quickly changed the topic. He asked, "By the way, why didn't you stay at home? What are you doing here? The weather is so cold. Why don't you protect yourself?" "I'm not that weak." Steele shook her head and turned to point in the direction of the upper reaches of the sandy river. "Wait and see. You'll know what's going on in a while." Sue didn't expect Steele to keep him in suspense. He could only chat with Steele while watching the situation upstream. Less than a minute later, a black dot suddenly appeared upstream and quickly approached. After a while, Sue looked carefully and found that this black dot was actually a boat. When it came a bit closer, he could clearly see that this was a small boat that could only fit one person. The small boat was moving very quickly on the river. Just by looking, he could see that it was moving at least 30 kilometers per hour. It didn't take long for it to reach a place not far away from the upper reaches. Seeing this small boat, Sue was pleasantly surprised. "It can't be. When I left, those fellows clearly told me that it would take a long time before they finished their research. How come after I went out for a walk, they've already made the real thing? Steele pursed her lips into a smile. Then they must have been lying to you. Sue watched the small boat quickly approach before stopping at the bank where the crowd was gathered. When he saw the boatman standing up from the boat, he was shocked. This boatman, it was actually great magician Camilla. Sue asked Steele in a small voice with a strange look. Hey, Steele, grandfather can't even learn how to drive a magic car. How can you have him drive a boat? Aren't you afraid that something will happen if the boat capsizes? Without waiting for Steele's reply, great magician Camilla's loud voice rang out. Hey kid, my ears are very sharp. Don't think that I didn't hear you. Let me tell you, I can't drive a magic car well, but that doesn't mean that I can't drive a magic boat well. Sue quickly turned around and came forward with a smile. Grandfather, I didn't say that you couldn't drive it well, only. This should be their experiment, so why did they pull you in? I'm willing to come, so what? Do you have an opinion? Great magician Camilla glared at him. No, 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 how could I have an opinion? It's fine as long as you're happy. Sue looked around and found several researchers from the New Flyers Magic Machine Development Center in the crowd, immediately pulling them out. Hey, isn't it already vacation? Why aren't you on vacation and doing this experiment? Those researchers didn't notice the reproach in Sue's voice at all, rather they excitedly said to Sue, Sir Chairman, look. This is the record of the 17 experiments we've done today. Facts have proven that this magic boat can reach a maximum speed of 37 kilometers an hour. It's not that much worse than the magic car. Hearing this data, Sue didn't blame them anymore. He took the record from their hands and seriously looked it over, finding that they had been testing all day today. The test standard was to start from the upstream of the Sandy River, which was 1 kilometer away from here, and end here. It could be seen that the first test took the longest, and it became faster and faster each time. The most recent time, which was the first time Sue saw it, the magic boat test ship had only spent less than 2 minutes to travel 1,000 meters to this place. However, after reading the record, Sue knit his brows. There's only the downstream data? What about the upstream? The researchers looked at each other with a bit of awkwardness. Sir Chairman, the current small magic boat is still in the experimental stage and the magic engine isn't that powerful. As for the upstream results, it really is ugly. Sue glared at them. You don't record it just because the data is ugly? Didn't I say many times that experiments are to find problems and then solve them based on these problems? If you ignore the ugly data, what meaning is there in doing these experiments? Don't blame them, I told them not to record it. Steele suddenly came over and cut in. You? Sue looked at Steele with a confused look. Why? Steele didn't reply. He just pointed at great magician Camilla, who was excitedly discussing the pleasure of driving the magic boat with the crowd. Sue looked at the excited great magician Camilla and could guess a few things, so he gave the data back to the researchers. Alright, today's experiment will end here. Remember, when you do experiments in the future, try not to do it in front of so many people. It's not just for secrecy, it's also for safety. Understood? Several researchers responded in unison. Other than that, since you've made a major breakthrough in the research of the magic boat, in my name as the chairman, I'll give you a 3rd-grade reward. Sue added with a faint smile. The researchers were stunned before they broke out in cheers at the same time. It was almost New Year's. If they could get a 3rd-grade reward at this time, that would be great. Seeing that the researchers of the Magic Machine Development Center wanted to take away the single-person magic boat, great magician Camilla was a bit unwilling, but Sue persuaded him that Steele needed to go back and rest, so he gave up. Hey kid, when this thing is developed, I want to get one as soon as possible, understand? On the way home, great magician Camilla said this to Sue with a serious look. Sue didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he agreed. This great magician Camilla was clearly an old-fashioned person, so why was he so passionate about this new mechanical tool? Whether it was the bicycle or the magic car, he liked them all very much. Now that the magic boat was still in the experimental stage, he actually volunteered to be the pilot. Perhaps it's because his learning to drive the magic car isn't going well, so he wants to regain some face on the magic boat? Sui guessed in his heart. Thinking of this, Sui thought of the magic airship that Evita was currently researching. When the magic airship was being tested because it was flying in the air, it was very dangerous. When the time came, they definitely needed a magician proficient in flying magic. Looking at it like this, great magician Camilla was a very good choice. Chapter 485. After returning to the Falling Star Manor, Steele went to take care of the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe. Sui began receiving the guests that came after receiving the news that he was back. The first one to come was Chairman Cruz. When he saw Sui, Chairman Cruz immediately broke out in laughter and opened his arms to give Sui a large hug. Seeing his red face, Sui said with a faint smile, "Chairman Cruz, it seems like your mood is quite good. It seems like the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's income this year is quite good?" "How so, how so? Although it's all right, compared to your new flyer, it's far lacking." Chairman Cruz's words were modest, but the proud look on his face revealed his true thoughts. "If we really want to talk about it, our Chamber of Commerce's most profitable projects were all done with your help. So, I really should give you a share of the profits. I was just giving a suggestion, I didn't do anything." Sui waved his hand. "This means that your new residential area is selling very well?" Half a month ago, that high-class residential area was sold out. I'm currently considering developing another area next year. I came looking for you this time to get some new suggestions from you. How about it? Chairman Su, do you have any better suggestions for this residential area? Sui shook his head. I've already said what I can say. If I really have to suggest something, I can only tell you to strengthen the connection between your residents and the household magic machines, because household magic machines will become something that every family needs in the future, so you have to consider this. That's for sure. Chairman Cruz nodded. Chairman Su nodded. Moreover, not only did I consider this, I also wanted to discuss a new method of cooperation with you. What new method of cooperation? Tell me about it. Look, after each family buys a new house, they have to buy a set of household magic machines. Since it's like this, why don't we help them buy a set of household magic machines when we sell them the house? Chairman Cruz said. You mean, to sell the house together with the furniture? Sui knit his brows. I'm afraid this isn't good because this will make the people who buy the house lose the right to choose the household magic machines they like. I'm afraid this will affect many people's decision to buy a house. There's nothing to worry about. Chairman Cruz smiled. Chairman Su laughed. If the house is filled with your Shinfei brand household magic machines, I don't think that anyone will have any objections. After all, compared to the household magic machines of other companies, the Shinfei brand household magic machines are much better in terms of quality and performance. Moreover, it is much better to use Shinfei brand household magic machines as Shinfei's. Sui found this a bit funny, although I'm very happy that you said this. Not being able to choose according to one's wishes will have some effects. Chairman Cruz seemed like he was already prepared as he said with a confident look, then what if it's custom-made Shinfei brand household magic machines for the house? Custom-made? Sui slightly knit his brows. You mean that we should specially make household magic machines based on the style of the house? Chairman Su, you really understand with a hint. Chairman Cruz gave Sui a thumbs up. Think about it, a custom-made Shinfei brand household magic machine for the house. Just this gimmick is enough to attract many people. Not to mention that after it's custom-made, the household magic machine will be integrated into the house, and it will look very beautiful. I'm certain that this house will be loved by countless people and we won't have to worry about selling it. Seeing Chairman Cruz's confident look, Sui shook his head. I'm afraid that's not possible. Chairman Cruz was splashed with cold water by Sui and was stunned. Why not? This way not only can our Amrit Chamber of Commerce sell more houses, your Frestek Chamber of Commerce can also sell more household magic machines with the houses. Moreover, with the gimmick of custom-made, you can raise the price of these household magic machines and earn quite a bit. Because this will consume large amounts of our company's design and research resources. Sui said. Changing the appearance of household magic machines isn't as simple as you think. If you change it a bit, it will affect the overall dynamic balance. So if you change it a bit, you will need to redesign it. But our company's design and research resources are seriously lacking, so how could we spend them on custom-made household magic machines? Seeing how firm Sui was, Chairman Cruz was a bit depressed. That means it's impossible? At least it's impossible right now, Sui said with a shake of his head. Chairman Cruz gave a sigh and didn't discuss this matter anymore. He turned to discuss the other important business of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce with Sui, laying down road. The statistics for this year are already out. In this year, our company has laid down a total of 8,367 kilometers of cement roads in the kingdom. Basically, every city in the kingdom is connected by road. Speaking of this, Chairman Cruz's face was full of complacency. Of course, just in our Banta city alone, we've laid down over 1,000 kilometers of roads this year, even connecting every village with road. If every city in the kingdom did the same as our Banta city, we would have laid down over several tens of thousands of kilometers of road. It takes a lot of time and money to upgrade the road network, it can't be rushed, Sui said with a smile. To let the other cities in the kingdom be connected by roads like our Banta city, first the other cities in the kingdom have to be as rich as our Banta city. Chairman Cruz's expression changed. Right, speaking of connecting every city, I suddenly thought of something. When you went to Seoul City this time, you should have passed by Basaru City, right? Basaru City is one of the few cities in the kingdom that doesn't have a single road. Is this place that poor? Sui helplessly spread his hands. It's that poor. Let me tell you, even if it is Basaru City's city lord Count Longley, his family's living conditions aren't much better than many of our Banta city's citizens. Really? Chairman Cruz exclaimed in surprise. Chairman Count revealed a look of surprise. He is the respected Lord Count. How could it be that he can't even compare to the living conditions of our Banta city's citizens? This is a fact, because when I passed by Basaru City, I stayed at Longley Count's house for 2 days and personally saw it. Chairman Cruz shook his head. Perhaps he is just acting in front of you. Anyway, I don't believe that a Count's family would be this poor. Chairman Cruz shook his head. Whether it is acting or not, Basaru City really is poor. Other than that, Longley Count invited our new flyer to invest in Basaru City, so I wanted to ask if you were interested in coming? If you want to invest there, you have to at least build the roads first. Chairman Cruz was surprised. Since that place is that poor, what benefits can there be from investing there? Chairman Cruz shook his head. It is poor, but that doesn't mean there is no value there. Rather, I found a very rare resource in Basaru City. If it is used well, it isn't hard to earn a large amount from this resource. Really? Chairman Cruz's eyes lit up. As long as Chairman Su decides to go, I will definitely go. Anyway, I believe that as long as I go with you, I definitely won't lose out. Sui laughed. Then I have to thank you for your trust. After sending Chairman Cruz out, Kennard entered the Falling Star Manor. Watching Chairman Cruz's horse carriage disappear into the night, Kennard asked Sui, Chairman Cruz should be here to discuss the matter of customizing household magic machines for his company's villa, right? What? He talked to you? Sui asked back. He talked to me about this matter around 10 days ago, and I agreed, but I wanted to wait for the chairman to come back before making a decision. Did you promise him? No. Sui shook his head before asking, "Why did you agree?" "This. I felt that this would open up a new development path for our company's household magic machines, which would increase the sales of household magic machines, so I agreed." "Then, Chairman, why didn't you agree?" "Your idea isn't wrong. But you've neglected a problem. What our company needs to do the most right now isn't limited to selling 1 or 2 household magic machines, rather we need to keep promoting magic machines. We need to let the entire kingdom, and even the continent, accept the existence of magic machines." Sui paused before asking, "Do you still remember the dream I told you before? Flying into space and chasing the stars?" Kennard raised his head and looked at the night sky that was filled with stars due to the arrival of darkness. His expression revealed infinite yearning. "Chairman, I understand what you mean. In front of this dream, increasing the sales of some household magic machines really isn't an important matter." After a while, the change in Kennard's eyes disappeared and he regained his calmness. "But Chairman, if we reject Chairman Cruz's proposal, it's very likely that he will find other companies that produce household magic machines to cooperate with. Perhaps we will lose this chance in the future. Could it be that I haven't given up enough chances?" Sui revealed a faint smile. "Not to mention that if it wasn't for me, those companies wouldn't even have this chance, right?" Kennard laughed. "That's right, Sir Chairman, you really are the strangest merchant I've ever seen, but I like you very much." After laughing, Kennard suddenly revealed a lonely look as he said with a sigh, "It's a pity. Sir Chairman, I have to say goodbye to you." Chapter 486. Seeing Kennard get into the magic car heading to Anvil City and disappear into the distance, Sui gave a chuckle and shook his head. "This Kennard, isn't it just coming home for New Year's? Why did he have to be so serious? He even said goodbye to me. It really scared me. I thought that he was planning on resigning." Hines on the side slightly knit his brows. "This isn't impossible. I've heard that the Emma family has recently entered the magic machine industry, so summoning a professional like him, who has been the CEO of our company for 2 years back to the family, is a very reasonable matter. It's because the Emma family wants to enter the magic machine industry that they won't do this kind of thing. This is because keeping Kennard as the CEO of our company is more beneficial to their development in the magic machine industry," Sui said with a faint smile. "In the end, if any company wants to enter the magic machine industry, they have to have a good relationship with our new flyer, right?" Hines laughed. "Sui, I've found that you're becoming more and more like those important people. You're always this confident in your words." Sui looked at him and thought for a bit before asking, "Baron Hannes said the same thing to me before. Could it be that my personality has really changed?" Hines shook his head. "I don't think it's because your personality has changed. It's just that. How should I put it? It's probably because our Chamber of Commerce has become stronger. As the president, you naturally have more confidence than before. That's why you seem more confident and domineering." "Why does it sound like I'm a small person?" Sui gave a self-deprecating laugh. "It can't be that kid Alex who told you this, right?" Hearing the name Alex, Heinz's face sunk and he gave a strong snort. "Don't mention that kid to me. I'll get angry if you mention him." Sui revealed a faint smile. He thought that Hines had specially come to send off Kennard today. If it wasn't for Alex, he wouldn't believe it. After Alex was chased back from Anvil City, he hadn't come out during this time. Sui had already prepared himself for Hines to come and discuss how to deal with Alex. But Sui never thought that Hines would be this impatient. The day after he came back from Seoul City, he took the initiative to come find him. It could be imagined how much pressure Alex giving Hines by staying at home was. But of course he wouldn't expose him and pretended to casually ask, "Right, speaking of Alex, after he came back from Anvil City, what are his plans? He's still young, he can't just stay at home." That's what I was thinking. This. Hines revealed a very ashamed smile that even had a trace of flattery. Sue, I've already scolded that kid enough during this time, and he is very regretful. It was a moment of confusion back then, so I hope that you can give him another chance. Look. This isn't something that can be explained by a moment of confusion. Sue shook his head with a serious look. Hines, you should be clear that if I didn't find out early and let him leak our company's secrets, the losses would be very serious and he wouldn't be able to take it. Moreover, to be honest, he even had contact with the Sack Kingdom's people before, wanting to sell our company's secrets to the Sack Kingdom. Don't you know that this is considered treason? It can't be. Hines's face was very ugly. He really was confused. He definitely didn't have this idea. He is very regretful now. He shouldn't have sold our company's secrets just for a bit of money. Sue, you just forgive him this time and give him another chance, all right? I've never begged you in all these years. Just treat it as me begging you this time, all right? Seeing Hines's pleading appearance, Sue gave a deep sigh. He softly patted Hines's shoulder. He is only your nephew, and you have to do your best for him. When that kid of yours grows up and needs your help, are you planning on digging out your own flesh to help him? Hines gave a bitter laugh. There's no other way. He is my only nephew after all. When big brother and sister-in-law died in the chaos 10 years ago, they entrusted him, who wasn't even 10 years old, to me, so I have the responsibility to take care of him. Taking care of him isn't spoiling him. Sue shook his head before looking at Hines and giving another sigh. All right, even though it's against the company's rules, since you've already said it like this, I'll give him another chance. The company is about to set up a transportation team. Let him get his driver's license first and become a driver for the transportation team. As long as he's willing to work hard, it's not impossible for him to be promoted to the leader of the transportation team or even the head of the transportation department. I hope he can grasp this opportunity and take care of himself. Seeing Sue finally nod, Hines's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. He grabbed Sue's hand and shook it. Good. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for giving him this opportunity. I'll go back and tell him to work hard in the future. Seeing Hines quickly turn around and leave, Sue slightly knit his brows. In reality, he didn't have a good opinion of Alex. The reason why Alex used the company's secrets to exchange for gold in Anvilmar City was because he had been corrupted by the life in Anvilmar City. He was already used to the life of luxury. Could he really endure the hardships and work as a transportation driver? Sue had deep doubts about this. Even if there were many other jobs in the company that could be given to Alex, Sue had already lost all trust in him. Naturally, he couldn't give him any of the company's secrets. Just like he had said to Hines, with the things Alex had done, he could be charged with treason. Sue only forced him back from Anvilmar City because of Hines's face. It would be unfair to the others and irresponsible to the entire Chamber of Commerce if they wanted him to enjoy a good job. Thinking of how Hines had pleaded for Alex, Sue couldn't help giving a deep sigh. Other people are pitiful parents, but what does Hines count for? Pitiful uncles? Sue shook his head with a bitter smile. He turned to the horse carriage and headed to the city lord's manor. When she saw Sue, Seveni was having a rare break. Seeing Sue, Seveni immediately put down the hot drink in her mouth and revealed a happy smile. Sue, you're finally back. Sue waved his hand to greet her with a casual look. Hey, Your Highness, I'm back. Have you been well during this time? Seveni pointed at the mountain of documents on the desk in front of her. What do you think? Sue laughed. This is the job of the city lord. When you become the queen, I guarantee that you'll need to sign several times more documents than now. Seveni said with a sigh. That's right, I've seen Father deal with official matters before and I was scared by the pile of documents. So I'm very hesitant now. If I want to take the throne, I have to face such a difficult situation and I'm worried that I can't handle it. Hearing the hidden meaning in Seveni's words, Sui knit his brows and said with a serious look, "Your Highness, it's not something you can give up if you don't want to. If you give up, it's equal to giving up on the people who have always supported you." After pausing, Sui pointed at himself. "Or to put it more bluntly, someone like me has been completely sold by you." Seveni looked at Sui and said with a faint smile, "Chairman Su, even if I want to sell you, there needs to be people who can afford it, right? Don't forget, your current value is enough to make people collude with the Sac Kingdom to take care of you." Hearing Seveni mention this matter, Sui deeply knit his brows. "What about the captives I had people send back? If it wasn't for my preparations this time, they might not have been able to come back. I gave them to Father to take care of, so I don't know their current situation." Seveni replied. "His Majesty?" Suyi's thoughts turned. He thought that the reason why the king chose to clash with the royal parliament this time was to show his support for him. Other than using this chance to deter those fellows with bad intentions in the royal parliament, it was also a warning to all the nobles in the kingdom. The reason should be this. Thinking of this, Sui put down the discussion of this matter. Now that this matter was given to the king to take care of, he didn't need to meddle anymore. But the corresponding response still needed to be done. So Sui thought about it and asked Seveni another important question. "Private armies of nobles?" Seveni slightly knit her brows and looked at Sui with a strange gaze. "Why did you suddenly think of this? Didn't you always oppose the nobles having private armies before, thinking that it would be harmful to the stability of the kingdom?" "It's just to protect myself. Your Highness should understand the reason." Seveni gave a deep sigh. "I can understand your thoughts, but thinking of how you were forced to change, I suddenly feel that this world really is disappointing." Sui gave a shrug with a bitter smile. "Your Highness, we aren't children, so we should have expected this day. But I never thought that the other side would be this anxious, forcing me to bring this day forward. I believe that if you were present on the night of the attack on our convoy, you would definitely understand my feelings of urgency at this moment." Seveni shook her head. "No, even if I wasn't there, I could understand your thoughts and would support it. But, Sui, do you know that I've always been moved by your lofty ideals, so I hope that you can continue being this pure. But now that I see that even you can't avoid this fate, it really is very disappointing. Of course, this isn't disappointment in you. You who have this idea, aren't you the same as me? Aren't you a very idealistic person or a very childish person in the eyes of others?" Sui said with a smile. "Seveni, perhaps because of this we would be attracted to each other and walk together, right?" When he said this, Sui suddenly reacted. This was a bit too much. However, if he wanted to change it now, it would be too deliberate. So he gave a cough and looked away, awkwardly changing the question. "That. Your Highness, you still haven't told me how many private armies nobles can have." Seveni's face turned a bit red, but she still looked at Sui and said with a faint smile, "In theory, it's unlimited." Chapter 487. When he left the city lord's manor, it was close to noon. Sui looked at the sky and thought that since he had just come back, he had to return to the Falling Star Manor to have lunch with Steele. There wasn't enough time left to visit the people he had made plans for, so he could only get in the horse carriage and head to the Falling Star Manor. His body swayed back and forth with the horse carriage as Sui thought about the answer he had just received from Seveni. Theoretically speaking, a noble's private army could be limitless because the royal parliament and the royal parliament had never placed any restrictions on this aspect. This was because if one seriously analyzed the structure of the Lampari kingdom, they would find that the entire Lampari kingdom was made up of large nobles. As for the royal family, it was actually the most powerful noble family in the kingdom. The royal family had the strongest army in the kingdom, so the royal family always had the most power in the kingdom. The head of the royal family was the king of the kingdom. If there was a day that the royal family couldn't maintain this absolute advantage, they would be overthrown by the other large noble families and the regime would change. It should be said that this wasn't strange even in the history of Earth, but it wasn't as obvious as in the Lampari kingdom. In the entire signs, other than some small duchies and small kingdoms, all the other countries, including the Kanla Empire and the Mala Empire, had this kind of political system. So Su Yi's problem wasn't a problem for Seveni at all. Of course, an unlimited private army only existed in theory. First, and also the most important problem, was the cost. If one wanted to form a private army, of course they couldn't just gather a bunch of people to form a private army. An army without battle strength was just a motley crew. To have battle strength, the first thing was to have enough soldiers. The Lampuri kingdom's population had always been small, and adding in the fact that their living conditions weren't good, there weren't enough people with good physiques who could become soldiers. This caused the Lampuri kingdom's army to always be small. Even the strongest northern army only had a total of 30,000 people. The second was sufficient logistical supplies. A qualified soldier, in addition to their own qualities, also needed to have weapons and equipment in order to have combat effectiveness. In order to ensure that this soldier would always have such combat strength, there must be corresponding supplies. At the very least, this soldier had to be able to eat his fill. The amount of investment spent on this was undoubtedly terrifying. The Lampari kingdom's current army was only about 50,000 soldiers, but the kingdom's finances spent at least 300,000 gold coins on the military every year. However, this investment was still extremely low. Not only could it not compare to the Sak kingdom, it couldn't even compare to the surrounding small countries like the Drake Duchy. It couldn't be helped. The Lampari kingdom had always been so poor. Therefore, if you want to have an unlimited private army, you must first have unlimited capital investment. Of course, this was impossible. So even the strongest stag family in the Lampari kingdom other than the royal family only had 3,000 people in their private army. Of course, there was no accurate answer to how many private armies the stag family had. But even with the boldest guess, it was at most around 5,000 people. Because no matter how much the stag family was willing to invest, there was another important problem other than the cost, which was the suppression from the royal family. Since the Lampari kingdom's political system determined that the royal family was the most powerful family, in order to maintain this advantage, the royal family would naturally strictly limit the private armies the other nobles had. Although there were unwritten agreements between the nobles and the traditions of the signs, the royal family couldn't force the royal parliament to pass a resolution to limit the private armies the nobles had. As the family with the most power in the kingdom, the royal family had countless methods to achieve this. For example, Lampuri XIII had given an order to protect the kingdom. He wanted the nobles to send a certain amount of their private armies to the northern army to fight against the Sak kingdom. The northern army had a high casualty rate, so if they sent their private armies, it was clear that the more private armies there were, the more losses their families would suffer. So with the restrictions of the royal family, the nobles of the Lampuri kingdom gradually stabilized the number of private armies under their names. For a large family like the Stag family, having a private army of 3,000 was already the highest standard in the kingdom. The other famous clans in the kingdom only had about 2,000 soldiers in their private armies. As for a trivial viscount like Su Yi, he wanted a private army? Are you crazy? Of course Su Yi wasn't crazy, so Seveni naturally didn't think this. She was very clear on the meaning behind Su Yi's question. So after giving Su Yi a detailed analysis of the private armies of the Lampari kingdom, she gave him a suggestion. It was best not to directly announce that he wanted a private army. At most he could use the name of the territory's guards to recruit several hundred guards. Although this would attract the attention of countless people, it was still acceptable and was the usual method of many nobles in the kingdom. Su Yi happily accepted Seveni's suggestion, But if it was only a few hundred people, it was far from enough for him. When he really needed it, several hundred people wouldn't be of any use at all. Not to mention that the new flyer didn't need to worry about investment like many nobles. Adding in the fact that the new flyer had assets, Sui could support a private army of several hundred people. And to avoid the suppression of the royal family, there were many ways to solve this. Of course, there was no need to discuss this with Seveni. Not long after the horse carriage left the west gate of Banta City's old city, it suddenly slowed down and stopped. "What is it?" Sui asked the driver in front of him in a daze. "Sir Chairman, there's a traffic jam." Traffic jam? Hearing this familiar word from Earth, but unfamiliar in this world, Sui was stunned. Opening the curtain of the horse carriage, he found that the road in front of him was blocked. This road was 8 meters wide and could fit 4 horse carriages side by side, but now there were some medium-sized magic passenger cars and some medium-sized transport magic cars heading to the falling rain valley, so the road was much more crowded. There seemed to be an accident in front of them. They could see 2 horse carriages on the ground, and they could hear loud arguing coming from in front of them. Seeing the anxious looks of the people waiting in the traffic jam and hearing the discussions of the people around them, Sui couldn't help smiling. This scene really made him miss it. "Old Man Bell, are there often traffic jams here?" Sui asked his private horse carriage driver Bell. There weren't many before, but there were more in the second half of this year. Old Man Bell replied before suddenly looking at Sui with a strange look. "Sir Chairman, to be honest, it's only after our company started selling magic cars that there were often traffic jams. There were many people who scolded us when they were stuck." Sui laughed. "They'll get used to this situation sooner or later." Looking at the situation in front of him that didn't seem to change, he saw that there were more and more cars behind them, even reaching the city gates in the distance. Sui finally remembered that this world didn't have traffic police to maintain order. After hesitating a bit, Sui used the wind control spell on himself and flew over the horse carriages and magic cars blocking the road. When he flew to the accident site, he found that it should be an accident caused by a medium-sized transport magic car colliding with 2 horse carriages. The 2 horse carriages were on the ground, and one of them looked like it was about to fall apart, clearly being hit quite hard. As for the medium-sized transport magic car, it was standing on the side without any traces of damage. Looking over the people arguing, Sui found someone familiar. "Old Man Sarkozy, it's you. What is going on here?" Old Man Sarkozy looked at Sui falling from the sky in a daze before a look of joy appeared on his face. "Chairman Su, why are you here?" "I just came back from transporting goods from Kramer City." "Look, the goods in this carriage are from your new flyer. We were preparing to transport them to the falling rain valley. I never thought that when I came here I would bump into them." Sui looked in the direction Old Man Sarkozy was pointing and recognized that the people arguing with Old Man Sarkozy were all small nobles of Banta City. It was no wonder they had good-looking private horse carriages. Seeing Sui look over with an inquiring gaze, the small nobles immediately complained. "Chairman Su, don't listen to his nonsense. We were clearly walking on the road, and then he crashed into us. Look, our horse carriages are about to fall apart. We're all injured. Could it be that this is our fault? If it's not your fault, then whose fault is it? Who told your horse carriages to run crookedly and run so fast on this road? I think that your horses are crazy?" Old Man Sarkozy immediately refuted. The small noble's expressions froze before they roared out, "I think you're the crazy one. Our horses and horse carriages have been used by our family for over 10 years. How could they not be as good as your magic car that just came out this year? You?" When the small nobles said this, they remembered that Sui was right beside them. They actually dared to say bad things about the magic car in front of Sui. Wasn't this seeking death? Turning to see Sui's face sink, their hearts filled with panic. Chapter 488. Although Su-yi was only a normal merchant in name and at most had a noble title, no one treated him that simply. Just based on his close relationship with the current city lord Seveni, it was enough for these small nobles to be respectful to him. Seeing that Su-yi's expression wasn't good, the small noble, who had been loudly cursing old man Sarkozy, quickly revealed a smile to Su-yi. This. Chairman Su, I'm not saying that the magic car isn't good, I'm just saying that he didn't drive it well. Look, actually we went to the Falling Rain Valley today to get a driver's license, we just wanted to buy a magic car to play with. Su-yi waved his hand. Alright, stop wasting words. If you want to argue, go to the side. Don't block the way here. Look, how many people have been delayed. Looking around, old man Sarkozy and the other small nobles revealed embarrassed smiles. However, looking at the 2 horse carriages on the ground, they were all troubled. Chairman Su, these horse carriages are very heavy, how can we move them? Su-yi shook his head and walked to the side of the 2 horse carriages. He leaned over and used his magic to swipe his finger across the horse carriages, placing 2 magic arrays on the horse carriages after a while. After injecting magic into the magic arrays, the 2 magic arrays released a light blue glow. The 2 horse carriages floated up from the ground and floated in the air. Old man Sarkozy, the small nobles, and the surrounding crowd were all stunned. Although everyone knew that Su-yi was a magician, because of his status as the new Flyers chairman, people couldn't help forgetting this fact. However, the scene in front of them told everyone that Su-yi wasn't just a magician, he was a powerful magician. Otherwise, how could he make the 2 horse carriages float in the air with just a few casual gestures? Moreover, the 2 horse carriages floated just right and were very stable in the air, not swaying at all. It could be seen that Su-yi's control of the magic array was very exquisite. It was clear that his attainments in magic weren't normal. Not to mention that this kind of amazing magic, not to mention seeing it before, they had never even heard of it before. Chairman Su can actually develop such amazing magic, he really is too strong. If Su-yi knew what everyone was thinking, he would definitely be ashamed. This was because this magic array wasn't something he had researched on his own, but rather something he had learned from Evita. Evita had been studying the magic airship recently. She had studied the floating magic to the extreme. It far surpassed the definition of floating magic that normal magicians on signs had. Su-yi had learned a part of it, it was enough to achieve this amazing effect. When the 2 horse carriages were at his waist, Su-yi reached out to push them, and the 2 horse carriages that weighed at least 500 kilograms floated to the side of the road like they were made of paper. After pushing them to the side of the road, Su-yi pressed down on the 2 horse carriages and stopped injecting magic. Alright, you all wait here for now and discuss what happened just now. I'll hear the results of your discussion later. After Su-yi said this, he got into old man Sarkozy's medium transport magic car and drove it to the side of the road. Then he returned to the road and began directing the traffic. Although Su-yi had never done this before, he had seen this situation countless times on Earth. If he learned it, he would be able to use it properly. Not long after, the traffic that was originally hundreds of meters long passed through one by one in an orderly manner under his command, and the entire road was once again clear and smooth. When the last few horse carriages and magic cars passed, there was a normal horse carriage that stopped in front of Su-yi. The curtain of the horse carriage was opened to reveal Evita's pleasantly surprised smile. "Sir Chairman, I never thought that I would meet you here." Su-yi was also surprised. "Evita, shouldn't you have gone home a few years ago? Why are you still in Banta City?" "I did go home, but I'm back now." Evita giggled. Her smile had a rare hint of coquettishness. "Why are you back?" Su-yi was even more doubtful. "You're not planning on going home to spend New Year's with your parents?" "No." Evita shook her head. After thinking for a bit, she had the driver drive the horse carriage to the side of the road and jumped out of the horse carriage. There were 2 people who came out of the horse carriage behind her. They were a middle-aged man and woman, and based on their appearance they seemed like a couple. Looking over the middle-aged couple, Sue found that their appearance was a bit similar to Evita's. Seeing the intimate appearance between Evita and the middle-aged couple, Sue instantly understood. These two wouldn't be your parents, right? Sue asked. Evita nodded with a faint smile. You really are Sir Chairman, guessing right away. Sir Chairman, let me introduce them to you. They are my parents. I went home a few days ago and brought them over from my hometown, planning on spending New Year's with them in Banta City. Dad, Mom, this is Sir Chairman that I've mentioned to you before. The middle-aged couple quickly revealed respectful and nervous smiles, giving a serious bow to Sue. Chairman, Sir Chairman Sue, our family's Evita is working for your company and has always been taken care of by you. We've caused you trouble. Sue laughed and took the initiative to reach out his hand, shaking their hands as he said, Evita is now the chief of our company's most important Academy of Magic. She has made great contributions to our company and helped me with many things, so how could it be considered causing trouble? To be honest, if Evita wasn't working for our company, I would really have a headache. Speaking of this, I have to thank the two of you for raising such an outstanding daughter. Evita's parents never thought that Sue would be this polite to them, instantly becoming even more fearful. But hearing Sue praise Evita like this, the two couldn't help revealing proud and gratified smiles. After exchanging a few words with the two, Sue turned to ask Evita, You don't have any relatives in Banta City, so isn't it a bit inconvenient to spend New Year's here? Actually, we don't have any relatives in our hometown. Evita shook her head. Moreover, Sir Chairman, I brought my parents to Banta City this time, not only to spend New Year's here, I also want my parents to settle down in Banta City. Settle down? Sue was a bit surprised. Why? Because Signs wasn't convenient before, most people rarely left their hometown. This made people very attached to their hometown, and they weren't willing to leave their hometown. If it wasn't for the fact that Banta City's average wage was much higher than other places in the kingdom, there wouldn't be this many people who left their hometown to work in Banta City. But even if Banta City had over 200,000 foreigners each year, there were very few people who were willing to settle down in Banta City. Most of the foreigners would return to their hometown during New Year's and spend New Year's with their families and friends. Evita gave a soft sigh before replying in a low voice, Because I'm worried that my hometown will be involved in the flames of war, so they might be in danger if they stay in their hometown. Involved in the flames of war? Sue thought about it in a daze before remembering that Evita's hometown was Loren City, and it was very close to the northern border. If His Highness Eric led the northern army to attack the Sac Kingdom, it was fine if things went smoothly, but if things didn't go well and the Sac Kingdom counterattacked, the entire northern border of the kingdom would be involved in the flames of war. Evita's worries weren't unreasonable. This is also good. Banta City is much more prosperous compared to before, so living here should be much better. Sue nodded to Evita's parents with a faint smile. I represent the new flyer in welcoming you. I hope that you can live happily in Banta City. Evita's parents nodded and thanked Sue with a smile. Chairman Sir, you can't just welcome me, I still want to ask you for help. Evita suddenly said, I wanted to go to the Falling Star Manor to look for you today, but now that I've met you, I'll talk to you here. What help do you need? Is it related to your parents settling down? Evita revealed a sweet smile. Sir Chairman really is wise. I've asked around before, and if people from other cities want to settle down in Banta City, it seems like the procedures are very troublesome and there are some difficulties. So, I hope that Sir President can do me a favor and talk to Her Highness, so that my parents can settle down peacefully. That shouldn't be a problem. Banta City is lacking people right now and Her Highness welcomes people from other places to settle in Banta City. Moreover, the kingdom doesn't have any restrictions on people moving around, so I think the procedures shouldn't be too troublesome. Sui replied with a nod. Thinking about it, he suddenly found that perhaps settling Evita's parents was only a small problem, but how to settle the large amount of people in Banta City was a large problem. Next time I see Seveni, it seems like I have to properly mention this to her. Sui was thinking about how to manage people from Earth when Evita said, "That's right, Sir Chairman, other than my parents, when I went back this time, many people from my hometown knew that I was bringing my parents to settle down in Banta City, and they were all very moved. They all said that they wanted to settle down in Banta City. Sir Chairman, can you think of a way to solve this?" Sui knitted his brows as he calculated in his heart. He found that, if he wanted to solve this problem before His Highness Eric led the Northern Army to attack next year, time was very tight. It seems like I have to discuss this with Seveni as soon as possible. Sui thought for a bit before nodding to Evita. "All right, I will seriously consider it. Go and settle down your parents first. If you encounter any difficulties, come and find me." Thank you, Sir Chairman." Evita revealed a gentle and sweet smile to Sui. She got into the horse carriage with her parents and headed towards the sandy river. A while ago, under Akali's encouragement and the temptation of installment payments from Chairman Cruz, she finally bought a villa in a high-class residential area by the sandy river that faced the river. Sui had seen her busy renovating the house and had teased her for not buying it before, but after buying it, she was even more enthusiastic about renovating it than Akali. Now it seemed that Evita had already considered the problem of bringing her parents over to settle down. Seeing the horse carriage gradually move away, Sui suddenly had a strong premonition. Although Evita's parents were only 2 people, with the arrival of the 2 of them, perhaps it meant that an important scene was about to happen. Chapter 489. After watching Evita leave, Sui came to the side of Old Man Sarkozy and the small nobles. It was different from the sparks flying between them before. Now both sides had smiles on their faces and their hearts were calm. Seeing Sui come over, the small nobles took the initiative to reconcile with him. They said that they weren't careful enough when driving the carriage, causing them to crash into the new flyer's magic car, but they couldn't blame Old Man Sarkozy. Old Man Sarkozy clearly knew that he was basking in the glory of the new flyer and Sui, so he was very generous to compensate the small nobles for their losses. This included the cost of repairing the 2 carriages, as well as the injuries of the small nobles. The small nobles had to act magnanimous at this time, saying that they didn't need Old Man Sarkozy's compensation and that they didn't care about this small matter at all. Everyone was happy, but one of the small nobles said with a smile, "The cost of these 2 carriages is very high. You might not be able to pay for it even if you pay for it. Based on Chairman Su's face, we won't haggle over this." These words angered Old Man Sarkozy and his eyes popped out as he loudly said, "What? You're looking down on this old man? How high is the cost of these 2 carriages? Tell me, let's see if I can pay for it or not." That small noble also realized that he had said something wrong, but in this situation, he wasn't willing to lose face in front of an old farmer, so he said with a stiff neck, "What? The cost of these carriages is 300 gold coins. Can you pay for it?" "Isn't it just 300 gold coins? 2 carriages, right? It's only 600 gold coins. I thought that it would be a large amount." Old Man Sarkozy gave a cold snort. He reached into his chest and took out a gold note that was glowing with golden light. Here's 1,000 gold coins. I'll give you 400 gold coins." The small nobles looked at the gold note and found that it was indeed 1,000 gold coins. Moreover, it was a gold note issued by the Chimera Chamber of Commerce, so they were a bit stunned. In their minds, Old Man Sarkozy was just a normal old farmer. Even if he could earn a bit of money by transporting goods for the new flyer, it was impossible for him to earn that much, so how could he take out several hundred gold coins? But he never thought that old man Sarkozy would be able to take out 1,000 gold coins with a casual swipe. The small noble who had bullied old man Sarkozy swallowed a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help reaching out for the gold note, but he was stopped by a hand from the side. "Old man Sarkozy, take the money." Sui grabbed that small noble's outstretched hand and glared at him. That small noble immediately shrank back and moved back. Compensation is necessary. After all, they were injured. But according to what you discussed just now, old man Sarkozy, you just need to pay for the repair of their horse carriages, the medical fees for their injuries, and the mental trauma they suffered. Let me think. I'll just give you 50 gold coins. You don't have any objections, right? The small nobles shook their heads. Actually, although the 2 horse carriages had been knocked over and it seemed serious, it wasn't that exaggerated. There would be no problems if they took it back and fixed it. As for their injuries, it was just a few scratches on their skin. What kind of injuries were they? As for the mental damages Sui mentioned, they didn't have this concept at all. To sum it up, 50 gold coins had far exceeded their expectations. They thought that old man Sarkozy didn't have any money at all, so they couldn't squeeze anything out of him. It was no use even if they killed old man Sarkozy, so they were prepared to accept their bad luck. Now that they could get 50 gold coins as compensation, of course they were satisfied. Old man Sarkozy naturally didn't have any objections. When he took out the 1,000 gold coin note, he was already regretting his impulsiveness. Now that Sui was helping him smooth things over, of course he would take advantage of this. He took out a purse from his chest and counted out 50 gold coins for the small nobles. Seeing that both sides had reconciled, Sui gave a nod and prepared to leave. He was planning on going back to have lunch with Steele, but now he had wasted quite a bit of time because of this matter. When he was about to leave, he was stopped by the small nobles. "This, Chairman Su, can you tell us this? This old man Sarkozy, is he just helping your company transport goods?" A small noble pointed at old man Sarkozy and asked this. "It can't be considered that because old man Sarkozy bought this transport magic car himself, he's just helping our company transport goods this time. He normally helps other companies transport goods," Sui replied. The small nobles all looked at old man Sarkozy. Old man Sarkozy nodded. I've helped many companies transport goods, but I've been transporting goods for the new flyer a bit more." "That's it?" the lesser noble asked. The small noble asked again, "You haven't done anything else? What do you mean by doing something else?" Old man Sarkozy was confused by this question. Old man Sarkozy was confused. "I'm just in charge of transporting goods, what else can I do?" "You can earn this much just by transporting goods?" The small nobles didn't believe it, but thinking of how old man Sarkozy took out 1,000 gold coins worth of banknotes, they had no choice but to believe it. After whispering a few words, the small noble asked Sui, "Chairman Su, do you think we can gather some money and buy a few of your transport magic cars?" Sui couldn't help smiling. "All right, why not? What? You heard that old man Sarkozy is earning money from this, and you're also interested?" The small nobles laughed. It was clear that Sui had guessed what they were thinking. Old man Sarkozy looked at the small nobles in disdain before giving a snort. "Just based on your tender appearances, can you take this suffering?" The small nobles angrily glared at him. "What? Could it be that we can't compare to you?" Old man Sarkozy gave a cold laugh and didn't say anything else. Seeing him like this, the small nobles were even more angry, but they couldn't vent their anger on him. They turned to Sui and said, "Chairman Su, then we'll settle it here. We've decided to buy 2 or 3 transport magic cars first. We'll place an order with you right now. How about it?" Sui gave a sigh and helplessly said, "I welcome it, but our company's magic car production isn't enough and there are many orders that haven't been completed yet. I'm afraid we won't be able to sell magic cars in the short term." The small nobles were surprised before pointing at old man Sarkozy and asking, "Then where did he buy it from?" Sui gave a shrug. Accurately speaking, old man Sarkozy's transport magic car doesn't belong to him, rather it belongs to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. Old man Sarkozy just bought it from the Cantona Chamber of Commerce and is responsible for transporting goods. It's like this. The small nobles turned and looked at each other. They didn't keep asking as they bid farewell to Sui. When they drove the horse carriage that wasn't that big of a problem away, old man Sarkozy said with a frown, "Chairman Su, if you tell them this, Cantona will be annoyed to death by them." Sui laughed. "Cantona is in the Principality of Constantine right now, they can go to the Principality of Constantine to annoy him." Old man Sarkozy couldn't help laughing. After laughing for a while, old man Sarkozy looked to the southwest with a bit of a sigh. "Speaking of this, that fellow Cantona still hasn't come back. Could it be that he's not planning on coming back for New Year's?" Sui laughed. "That fellow is very happy in the Principality of Constantine right now, of course he's not willing to come back. Cantona wasn't happy at all right now because he was just too busy. Taking over 100,000 hectares of land from the new flyer was indeed a large opportunity. To him, it was a good chance for the Cantona Chamber of Commerce to become a first-class company. But for such a large piece of land, if he wanted to properly manage it and use it properly, it was a large task. At the beginning of the year, less than 40,000 hectares of land had been reclaimed, but Cantona was already very busy. He didn't have time to rest for a year, not to mention taking a few days to go back to Banta City. As for returning to Banta City for New Year's, it was considered a luxury for him because he didn't have the time at all. But he didn't have many family members, and because of the matters here, they had already moved from Banta City with him. Adding in the fact that there were many people from Banta City here, when everyone was gathered together, they didn't feel lonely. Moreover, because Suyi's request for Cantona was to reclaim 90,000 hectares of land next year, leaving around 10,000 hectares for other uses, Cantona's current task was even heavier. Now when he opened his eyes each day, his mind was filled with how to reclaim more land. He was even thinking about it when he was eating or going to the bathroom, not stopping for a single moment. Early this morning, he woke up early and went around the farmland like usual. Then he came to the entrance of the road that connected to the Shinfei farm and looked into the distance with the Cantona Chamber of Commerce's subordinates, waiting for something. After waiting for around half an hour, there was a cloud of dust that came from the road in the distance. There was a motorcade of several dozen transport magic cars that came from the distance. Seeing this motorcade, Cantona's mind shook as he came forward with his subordinate. Although this motorcade had the sign of the Fersen Carriage Company, they were transporting goods from the new flyer. Cantona was clear that the goods were the various agricultural magic machines that the new flyer had brought this time. To reclaim more land, naturally they couldn't do without the help of agricultural magic machines. But this batch of agricultural magic machines wasn't bought from the new flyer by the Cantona Chamber of Commerce because Cantona couldn't afford them. They were given to the Shinfei farm in the Principality of Constantine by Sui, specially used to reclaim this land. The first transport magic car stopped beside Cantona. Seeing the driver jump out of the magic car, Cantona was surprised. "Why is it you?" Chapter 490. Encanto revealed the same bright smile. "What? Why can't it be me?" Cantona looked at the motorcade that stopped behind them and was confused. "It's just delivering some goods, but they actually need you to do it, isn't this a bit strange? Then again, they are delivering agricultural magic machines. How is it related to you as the manager of the household magic machine department?" "Because the goods this time aren't just agricultural magic machines, there are also some other things," Encanto replied with a smile. "No wonder. I felt it was strange. Although 300 agricultural magic machines is a lot, there's no need for so many transport magic cars. So there are other things. Cantona looked at Encanto and asked, "What? Chairman Su sent you here. It can't be that he wants you to sell household magic machines in the Principality of Constantine, right?" Encanto gave Cantona a thumbs up, smart. "Sir Chairman had me come this time to bring some household magic machines and open the market in the Principality of Constantine. How about it? You've been in the Principality of Constantine for this long, so you should be very familiar with this place, right? Do you have any suggestions?" Cantona shook his head with a bitter smile. "I think that you and Chairman Su will be disappointed. The people of the Principality of Constantine are very poor, so there aren't many people who can afford household magic machines." Encanto didn't look disappointed at all as he said with a faint smile, "This isn't anything. The people of Banta City also couldn't afford household magic machines a few years ago. But now in each household of Banta City, there were household magic machines all over. The people of the Principality of Constantine can't afford them now, but that doesn't mean they can't afford them in the future." Cantona couldn't help smiling. This was something that Chairman Su said? That's right. That's what Sir President told me before I left. Chairman Su is always this confident. I admire him very much. Cantona said with a nod. But Sir Chairman has never been blindly confident, right? Encanto said. Cantona thought about it before laughing and not discussing this topic. He looked at the motorcade behind them and moved aside. "No matter what, let's have the motorcade rest on the farm first. You came all the way from Banta City, it must have been very hard on the road. I've already had people prepare some food, so go and fill your stomachs first." "All right," Encanto replied with a smile. He waved his hand at the motorcade behind them and several dozen transport magic cars drove past them, heading into the Shinfei farm. When the final transport magic car passed in front of Cantona, Cantona looked into the driver's seat out of habit. He was surprised to find that the person sitting in the front passenger seat was actually the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's human guard Commander Hart. Why is he also here? Cantona was even more confused. Although the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards only had a few hundred guards, they weren't weak at all. Hart, as the human guard commander, had over 300 human guards under him, so he had a high position in the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. He wouldn't leave the Frestec Chamber of Commerce easily. When he had personally acted as a guard, it was because Su-yi had personally led the team, transporting important goods. But this time Su-yi didn't come, but he did. This meant that there was something especially important in the goods this time? But this motorcade only had some normal agricultural magic machines and household magic machines. What was so important about it? Cantona was prepared to ask Encanto again, but Encanto suddenly patted his shoulder with a ghost of a smile. "Chairman Cantona, there are some things you shouldn't ask, so don't ask." Cantona's heart skipped a beat. He quickly nodded and gave 2 dry laughs before leading Encanto into the Shinfei farm. After a while, the motorcade arrived at the living area in the center of the Shinfei farm. However, only the first half of the motorcade stopped and the 10 transport magic cars in the back didn't slow down at all as they headed to the sea. Cantona's heart was filled with doubts, but thinking of Encanto's warning, he could only suppress his doubts. He began to seriously entertain Encanto and the motorcade that was left behind. This time Encanto's motorcade not only brought large amounts of agricultural magic machines for the Shinfei farm next year, as well as the household magic machines that would be sold in the Principality of Constantine, they also brought large amounts of daily necessities. According to what Encanto said, Su-yi had specially ordered him to bring these daily necessities. It was considered a New Year's gift for all the workers of the new flyer in the Shinfei farm. Seeing the large amount of daily necessities being brought out, Cantona couldn't help giving a sigh in his heart. Chairman Su really thought this through. Even if this place was far from Banta City, he didn't forget these details. These daily necessities seemed like a lot, but it didn't cost that much money. However, this method would, without a doubt, make the workers of the new flyer feel more connected to the new flyer. Although Cantona had considered giving some New Year's gifts to the workers of the Cantona Chamber of Commerce in the Shinfei farm, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce didn't have the convenient transportation facilities of the new flyer, so he could only buy them from the Principality of Constantine. It was clear that the things he bought from Banta City were lacking in taste. But compared to this, the biggest doubt in Cantona's heart was the 10 transport magic cars that left. Ancado was acting this mysterious and adding in the fact that the one in charge of escorting the goods was Captain Hart. Could it be that the goods in the 10 transport magic cars were? Cantona suddenly had a guess and was surprised. He couldn't help looking at the sea as a shocked look appeared in his eyes. #####. The 10 transport magic cars maintained a moderate speed as they headed to the sea, finally stopping at the pier by the sea. This steel pier wasn't finished yet, but the part that was finished was enough for some ships to enter and leave the sea. After Hart jumped out of the transport magic car, he looked up and found that there were several dozen black dots on the horizon that were quickly approaching. "It seems like you're on time." Hart nodded before walking towards a middle-aged man who came out of a house by the pier. "Hello, Captain Hart." The middle-aged man smiled warmly at Hart and shook Hart's hand. "I've already been waiting here for 2 days." After saying this, he looked at the motorcade behind Hart and gave a sigh of praise. "These are the magic cars that your new flyer developed, right? They really are much better than horse carriages. I thought that it would take several days for you to arrive from Banta City, but I never thought that you would arrive in just 2 days. It really is faster than I imagined." Hart looked at him and said with an expressionless face, "If Mr. Anclo was here, he wouldn't be surprised." The middle-aged man revealed an awkward smile. "Of course I'm not as knowledgeable as Mr. Anclo. This is my first time seeing a magic car, so I really am a bit surprised. You'll get used to it in the future." Hart looked at the sea and pointed at the black dots in the distance as he asked, "Those should be your ships, right?" The middle-aged man quickly nodded. That's right. I saw that your motorcade had arrived, so I sent out the signal. I asked Captain Hart to wait for a few minutes. They will be here soon." Hart nodded and came to the pier with the middle-aged man, watching the black dots approach. The middle-aged man kept talking to Hart, but Hart only gave short replies each time. The middle-aged man felt it was boring, so he didn't say anything else and the two waited in silence. After around 20 minutes, the black dots finally approached the pier. There were 30 boats that were commonly seen in the Principality of Constantine. Although they were boats, these boats weren't bigger than the boats on the Sandy River in Banta City, rather they were smaller. Each boat was less than 10 meters long and less than 3 meters wide, so they were all small boat. Seeing these small boats, Hart couldn't help shaking his head. The middle-aged man who had been paying attention to Hart immediately asked, "What is it? Captain Hart, do you have a problem?" Hart said with knit brows, "These boats are too small. Can they transport these goods back?" The middle-aged man laughed. "You don't need to worry about that. Although these boats are small, it's very easy to transport all the goods in these 10 magic cars back." Hart nodded and didn't ask anything. He walked over to the boats near the pier and met Anclo, who had jumped out of the boat in front. "Captain Hart, hello." Anclo wasn't as excited as the middle-aged man, but his eyes kept looking at the transport magic cars, revealing the nervousness in his heart. Hart shook hands with Anclo before pointing at the transport magic cars. "The things are here. Mr. Anclo, please take a look." Anclo wasn't polite as he came to the side of the transport magic cars with Hart. He went into the back of one of the transport magic cars and took off the tarp that was tightly covered. After a quick glance, Anclo couldn't help but take in a deep breath. Under the cloth, there were all kinds of bright weapons that were releasing a cold glow. Just based on the glow of these weapons, one could tell that the quality of these weapons was very good. It was far from what the normal weapons made by blacksmiths could compare to. As for the normal weapons of the Principality of Constantine, they couldn't compare to these weapons at all. Anclo only took a look before putting down the cloth. He turned to look at Hart, but he found that Hart's face was very calm, without any fluctuations at all. It's a good thing that I was excited about these weapons, but in Captain Hart's eyes, these weapons are just normal things. Anclo gave a sigh in his heart before looking at the transport magic cars in the back with Hart. The first 7 magic cars were filled with the standard weapons and armor produced by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. As for the 8th and 9th magic cars, they were filled with large amounts of magic repeating crossbows and arrow boxes. Seeing these magic repeating crossbows, Anclo became even more excited. He was very clear on the might of these magic repeating crossbows. If they were equipped with these magic repeating crossbows, as long as there were enough arrows in the box, they could guarantee that the enemy wouldn't be able to approach at all. When they came to the final transport magic car that Hart was personally escorting, Anclo opened the cloth to take a look and his breathing couldn't help stopping. Chapter 491. Looking at the messy pile of steel parts that he didn't know what they were for, the complicated look on Anclo's face finally returned to normal. He turned to Hart and said with a nod, "Captain Hart, please pass on my thanks to Chairman Sue. The large amount of help he has given me, I will engrave it in my heart forever." Hart said with an expressionless face, "Sir Chairman said before he left that this was a very normal transaction, everyone just took what they needed." Anclo was a bit surprised. After pausing, he pointed at the messy pile of parts with knit brows and asked, "But I have a question. Captain Hart, why do these magic trebuchet parts look so small? If they were assembled, wouldn't they be much smaller?" "This is the 2nd-generation magic trebuchet that our company has developed. Although it is much smaller than the 1st-generation magic trebuchet, it isn't weak at all. Rather it is stronger, so it is a bit stronger than the 1st-generation magic trebuchet. Moreover, because it is small, it is very easy to carry. Look, we only need a single transport magic car to transport it." Hart explained. "It's like this." Anclo looked at the parts of the magic trebuchet and still had some doubts. "But how do we assemble this thing? No one knows how to do this." Hart took out a small booklet from his chest for Anclo. This has the assembly diagram of the magic trebuchet, as well as the maintenance of the magic repeating crossbows and the weapons and armors. After you bring these things back, you have to properly study them. Otherwise, if it breaks down because of your improper operation, our company won't provide any maintenance services." Anclo took the small booklet, but he didn't look it over as he kept asking, "Chairman Hart, why don't you just provide a technician to help us with these things? Wouldn't that be more convenient?" Hart shook his head. "Sir Chairman said that this is a normal transaction between us. If we send someone over, it would be participating in the internal affairs of your Principality of Constantine." He felt that Mr. Anclo wouldn't be willing. Anclo was silent for a bit before giving a slight nod. "Chairman Sue is very thoughtful. But—" Anclo looked at the 10 transport magic cars and revealed a bitter smile filled with self-ridicule. "In fact, you are already participating in this." Hart remained silent. Anclo was in a daze for a moment. He took a deep breath and regained his composure. "All right, Captain Hart. I've accepted these goods. Let's start harvesting now." Hart nodded and showed Anclo the list of goods. After Anclo confirmed it, Hart received an agreement signed by Anclo. The content of this contract was that Anclo would transfer an iron mine and a magic crystal mine from his territory to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. According to the contract, New Flyer would have the permanent rights to mine this iron mine and magic crystal mine. In other words, This iron mine and magic crystal mine would belong to the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce from now on. It wouldn't be related to Anklo or the Principality of Constantine at all. These two mines were naturally used by Anklo to pay for the weapons he bought from the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. Although it was just for 10 magic cars, the total value was 200,000 gold coins. Just the new magic trebuchet alone was worth 10,000 gold coins. As for the 300 sets of magic repeating crossbows in the two magic cars, with the arrow boxes, each set would cost 400 gold coins. 300 sets would cost 120,000 gold coins. As for the remaining 1,000 sets of weapons and armor, they were only worth 70,000 gold coins in total. Actually, the value of these two mines far surpassed 200,000 gold coins. It wasn't less than 300,000 gold coins. But it was impossible for Anklo to take out that much cash, so he could only use resources to exchange for the things he needed from New Flyer. If he had a choice, Anklo didn't want to sell the resources under his name because he knew how important resources were to the future development of the Principality of Constantine. But he had no other choice, because if he wanted to achieve the goal in his heart, he had to spend money, and he had to spend a large amount of money. Seeing his subordinates move the goods from the 10 magic cars into the small boat he brought, Anklo had a complicated look on his face. His eyes were filled with worry and there was a bitter smile on his lips. Let's hope that this sacrifice will bring about a good outcome. Otherwise, I might become the greatest sinner of the duchy. Anklo was filled with worry about the uncertain future because of his choice, but the people of Banta City were filled with joy and excitement because of the bright future. They were all welcoming the new year with great enthusiasm. Another year passed. Since Her Highness 70 took over as Banta City's city lord in the second half of the year, Banta City was filled with energy and enthusiasm. It was completely different from when Count Stark was the city lord. In just half a year, not only had Banta City recovered its previous prosperity, it was even more lively than before. As the magic machine industry led by the New Flyer entered the hearts of the people of Banta City, many people were pulled into this industry. Now in Banta City, everyone could easily find a job that satisfied them. They didn't need to worry about food or clothing, and they could even enjoy a luxurious life that they didn't even dare think of a few years ago. For example, the things that they didn't buy before because they didn't have enough money when it came to an important time like the New Year, naturally they had to make up for it. So when it was close to the New Year, New Flyer's household magic machine sales exploded. Just in a single week, it was enough to match the sales of the previous 2 months added together. According to the statistics, in just a short week, New Flyer's household magic machine sales had reached a shocking 500,000 gold coins. Because of New Flyer's high profits, in just a short week, New Flyer's income from household magic machines was over 300,000 gold coins. If it was 3 years ago and Sui saw this kind of profit, he would have been so happy that he wouldn't be able to control himself. But now that he saw this number, Sui found that he didn't feel anything at all. Rather, he tried to find if there was anything wrong with this number, and if there was anything that could be improved. There was no other way. According to the statistics, this year's New Flyer's annual profit had broken through a shocking 10 million gold coins. How could Sui be happy with a trivial 300,000 gold coins? Of course, the more money he earned, the more money he spent. This year's New Flyer's annual profit was shocking, but the various investments were shocking as well. Putting aside the salary of over 3 million gold coins, New Flyer had begun expanding in the second half of this year, investing in many cities to build production bases. Adding in the large investments in the Black Rice Wasteland, the Principality of Constantine, and Seoul City in the last 2 months, they had invested a total of over 5 million gold coins. Calculating it like this, at the end of the year, New Flyer's account balance was only around 1 million gold coins. Compared to the current scale of New Flyer, this bit of money wasn't considered much at all. When financial manager Seabass was writing the end-of-the-year report, he kept complaining to Sue. He kept reminding him that he should pay attention to the balance of income and expenditure next year, so that the company wouldn't have a deficit for the first time. However, Sue only smiled at his warning and didn't care at all. The reason why New Flyer's expenditures were this high this year was because of the expansion policy he had set. When the various production bases were built next year and they were put into production, these investments would turn into large profits. At that time, New Flyer's profits would be much higher than now, and it wouldn't be strange if it was several times higher. The more important thing was that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's layout had been set, so they wouldn't be easily affected by the changes of a single city. They would have a way to deal with any situation and wouldn't be forced into a passive position by a single noble. Of course, the normal nobles wouldn't dare target you or the Frestec Chamber of Commerce because Royal Father has already made his stance clear in the Royal Parliament. There isn't a noble that would risk angering Royal Father to do something like this. Seveni looked at Sue sitting in the chair with a relaxed appearance and shook her head. Sue, to be honest, I really don't understand why you look so confident on the surface, but you're actually filled with a sense of danger? Tell me, why are you recruiting all these people to become your company's guards? Don't tell me you're just filling up your company's guards. Sue revealed a faint smile. Is there a lot? It's not that much, it's just recruiting 500 people. Compared to the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's over 2,000 guards, our New Flyer has less than 1,000 guards, so it can't be considered much at all. Seveni glared at him. Stop acting like a fool. Your company's elven guards, dwarf guards, and even the beastmen guards you recruited from the Black Rice Wasteland. That's right, there's also the Principality of Constantine guards you recruited from the Principality of Constantine. They aren't included in your company's guards. If you really add them all up, wouldn't you have over 2,000 people? Sue gave a laugh into the sky, but he didn't reply. Seeing his reaction, Seveni was a bit angry. She softly slapped the table and knit her brows. She raised her voice for once and shouted in an angry tone, Sue, those elves, dwarves, and beastmen guards are much stronger than normal human guards. If we're talking about battle strength, your New Flyer's guards can even compare to an army of 5,000 people. What do you want to do? Seeing Seveni's serious expression, Sue gave a sigh and spread his hands. Your Highness, I don't want to do anything, I just want to protect myself. You said that no nobles dared to target me and the New Flyer, but the nobles you mentioned didn't include His Highness Eric, right? Seveni's brows trembled slightly and she gave a sigh, but she didn't say anything. Seeing Seveni's reaction, Sue revealed a faint smile before continuing, All right, Your Highness, let's not discuss this kind of meaningless matter that everyone knows about, right? Let's discuss proper business. Your 5,000 guards, what standard equipment do you want them to be equipped with? Chapter 492. Seveni looked at Sue with a bit of hidden bitterness in her eyes. I'm not as rich as a certain chairman, not only giving the guards of my company the highest grade weapons, I even give them the highest grade magic repeating crossbows. For a poor person's private guard like me, it's already good to have a set of armor and a weapon. Sue couldn't help smiling as he shook his head. All right, Your Highness, since you are a poor person, I'll allow you to buy on credit on behalf of the New Flyer. What do you think? Seveni revealed a look of joy as she pursed her lips into a smile. How can I accept this? Sue spread his hands. All right, I don't mind, so what is there to be embarrassed about? Then it's settled, I'll give you the same top-grade equipment for your 5,000 guards. Other than that, I'll also give you 2 new magic trebuchets and I'll reserve 50 large transport magic cars that will be released this year. Chairman Sue, are you forcing a sale? Seveni said. Seveni asked. If it's like this, it'll cost at least 1,000,000 gold coins, right? I can't take out the money to pay you. I've said it before, I can buy on credit. Sui said with a faint smile. Then how long can I buy on credit? Seveni kept asking. Sui looked at Seveni. Don't ask this kind of meaningless question. Anyway, it's a deal. If you really feel bad, then think of other ways to make it up to me. Seveni looked at Sui for a while before her expression suddenly became serious. Sui, I have to remind you that although I support you and the new flyer and I'm very grateful for your support, if you and the new flyer do anything that harms the interests of our Lampari kingdom, I definitely won't be polite to you. Moreover, I definitely won't use the interests of the kingdom to compensate you. Sui shrugged. Don't worry, at least I'm satisfied with this kingdom. I don't intend to betray it, and I sincerely hope that the Lampari kingdom can become stronger. The kingdom's interests are my interests. Seveni nodded and ended this topic. She took out Banta City's work plan for the coming year and discussed it with Sui. By the time the meeting was over, Sui left the city lord's mansion. It was already close to dusk. Because it was close to New Year's, most of the foreign workers in Banta City had returned home for New Year's, so Banta City was much quieter than normal. But because it was close to New Year's, the families of Banta City began to prepare for New Year's, so there was a festive atmosphere all around. Because of the magic machine industry driven by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, Banta City's economy soared. It also increased the income of each household in Banta City, so for this year's New Year's, the citizens of Banta City were much more prepared compared to before. When it was close to New Year's in the past, most of the citizens of Banta City were worried about how to spend New Year's. But this year, they were worried about how to spend New Year's better. Food was already something they didn't need to worry about. Now what the citizens of Banta City wanted was to have a better and more comfortable life. So the new magic house concept proposed by the new flyer became very popular in Banta City. Almost every family began to buy all kinds of household magic machines and began to rearrange themselves according to the magic house concept proposed by the new flyer. Because of this pursuit, the household magic machine system construction that Akali published with the release of the magic house had sold over 10,000 copies in just 3 months. Now whether one could read or not in Banta City, they all had a deep understanding of the concept of the magic house. When the citizens of Banta City chatted with each other, if anyone expressed that they didn't understand the concept of the magic house, they would definitely be looked down upon. It was because of this that the sales volume of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's household magic machines in Banta City had rebounded during this time, suddenly doubling their sales volume. Thinking of this, Sui suddenly felt that Chairman Cruz's proposal to sell custom household magic machines with the new flyer was a good idea. Because, if it was sold together with the Amrit Chamber of Commerce's residences, it would definitely have a good effect. Of course, when Chairman Cruz proposed this, Sui already felt that the prospects were good. But other than the fact that New Flyer didn't have enough production and research resources, the other important reason why Sui rejected Chairman Cruz's proposal was that Sui wasn't willing to let New Flyer take all the household magic machine market. He wanted to leave some space for the other household magic machine companies to survive and develop. Just 2 days ago, Sui had held a meeting of the Banta City Magic Machine Business Association. At the meeting, he proposed to the companies that mainly produced household magic machines to have them work together with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to finish this custom household magic machine project. Sui also promised that New Flyer would pay attention to this project and provide technical support when necessary. This proposal was immediately welcomed by those companies, and with Sui pulling the strings, they quickly reached a preliminary agreement with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. They would begin research and production at the beginning of next year. Actually, although the Xinfei brand household magic machines had an unbreakable lead in Banta City and the surrounding cities, taking over 70% of the market, in places that were further away from Banta City, the sales volume of the Xinfei brand household magic machines wasn't that terrifying. The reason was very simple: the other brands were cheaper, and it wasn't just a bit cheaper. Take the magic air conditioners since winter came. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce's new aluminum alloy magic air conditioner had a price of 26 gold coins 2 months ago. The highest price of the other brands of magic air conditioners was only 20 gold coins, and the lowest was only 12 gold coins. For the citizens of the Lampari Kingdom, who weren't as rich as Banta City, if they could choose a cheap magic air conditioner, why would they choose the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner? Although the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner had the best quality and performance, as well as its appearance being more beautiful than the other brands, compared to these factors, the price was the most important. So in the Lampari Kingdom outside of Banta City and the surrounding cities, the sales volume of the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner and the other brands were very polarized. All the noble families, whether they had money or not, they would all buy the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner. Next were the merchants and the rich commoners. Most of them bought the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner. For normal families, almost no one would buy the Frestec brand magic air conditioner. They would all choose the magic air conditioners of other brands. Because there were more normal families than nobles, merchants, and rich families, although they bought less, in the end, the sales volume of the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner in other regions was much lower than the sales of the other brands. Because of this, Kennard, Seabass, Heinz, and Kato, and even Steele had proposed to Sue E that they shouldn't lower the price of the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner. With the large profit margin of the Xinfei brand magic air conditioner, even if it went from 26 gold coins to 20 gold coins, they could still earn at least 10 gold coins. Like this, they could steal the market from the magic air conditioners of the other brands. Calculating this, the final profit would be much higher than the current profit. But these people's suggestions were all firmly rejected by Sue E. This was still the initial development stage of the magic machine industry. If they started a price war for household magic machines now, although the Frestec Chamber of Commerce would gain large benefits in the short term, in the long term, it would greatly hurt the other companies that produced household magic machines. It would be a fatal blow to the development of the magic machine industry. Sue E naturally wasn't willing to see this. He treated the magic machine industry like his own child, hoping that it could develop healthily, so he racked his brains to protect it. However, while protecting the development of the magic machine industry, he also had to pay attention to the development of New Flyer. How to not harm the benefits of the other companies, ensuring that the magic machine industry would develop smoothly while ensuring that New Flyer would lead the development of the magic machine industry. This was a problem that Sue E had to seriously consider. Up to this point, it should be said that Sue E had done quite well. According to the statistics of the Banta City Magic Machine Business Union, all the magic machine companies in Banta City had sold over 15 million gold coins this year. Although New Flyer alone had taken over half of this, the other companies had earned at least 7 million gold coins from the magic machine industry. Even if the profit margin of the other companies wasn't as high as New Flyer's, out of the 7 million gold coins, the other companies had earned at least 3 million gold coins. Even though it might not be much for each chamber of commerce, it was still an exaggeration to say that in just 1 year, a new industry had brought in such a huge amount of profit. For example, because of New Flyer's small company support plan, there were close to 100 small magic machine companies that had appeared in Banta City. Their chairmen and investors might have been normal citizens before, so they might have earned less than 100 gold coins a year. But after establishing a magic machine company with the support of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, they earned at least 10,000 gold coins a year. Compared to before, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Take the most outstanding Ireland Chamber of Commerce, they had earned over 200,000 gold coins this year. When Freeman saw Sue E last time, He had proudly revealed that he alone had earned over 20,000 gold coins, becoming the richest man in Ireland village. Thinking of the smile Freeman had when he described this number to him, Sue couldn't help smiling. 20,000 gold coins was an astronomical figure for Freeman, but to him it was far from enough. Banta City's development was already shocking to many people, but to Sue it was also far from enough. If he wanted to develop better, he had to let the flames of industry from Banta City spread like wildfire. Not only would it spread across the Lampari Kingdom, it would spread across the signs. Chapter 493. New Year 3783 of the New Continent calendar was less than a week away when a cold wind swept through the entire Muerto Mountains with a blizzard. The snowflakes began falling in the morning and didn't stop at all at noon. The entire sky and ground were dyed white by the snowflakes. Not only did the snowflakes cover the barren land on the ground due to the flames of war, it also covered the dark red bloodstains that were close to black. The entire Muerto Mountains seemed to have become as pure and white as the snowflakes. The Hungry Wolf Regiment's commander Challen Linear stood outside the tent, looking at the Muerto Mountains covered in snow for a while. His body was completely covered in snow, and he had turned into a snowman. Although the Muerto Mountains in the distance couldn't be seen because of the blizzard, Linear knew that there must be the Lampari Kingdom's northern army on it. Just like how they were guarding against the Northern Army using this chance to launch a surprise attack, the Northern Army was also guarding against the Hungry Wolf Regiment using this chance to launch a counterattack on the Muerto Mountains. This confrontation had been going on since the Lampari Kingdom's Northern Army took the Muerto Mountains last year. Neither side was willing to back down because once they backed down, it would be equal to letting the other side take control of the border. No one could predict what the consequences would be. But in this kind of weather, neither side had the ability to attack, so they could enjoy this rare period of peace. However, Linear was very dissatisfied with this peace. The Muerto Mountains that had been controlled by the Sac Kingdom for close to 10 years had been lost by his hands. Because of this, there were many people in the Sac Kingdom calling for Linear to be replaced, which made Linear very passive during this time. Compared to this passive situation, what Linear cared about the most was the shame of losing the Muerto Mountains. As a soldier, he couldn't protect the territory he guarded. For Linear, this was simply like being slapped in the face by someone. Every time he saw the Muerto Mountains, he would feel a burning pain on his face, and the flames of anger would burn in his heart again. However, every time he thought of the battle strength displayed by the Lampari Kingdom's Northern Army in the Muerto Mountains, Linear felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, and he instantly calmed down. He knew clearly that if the Northern Battlefront Army kept the same power as last year and the Greed Army didn't change, the Greed Army would lose without a doubt. The Lampari Kingdom's Northern Army didn't take a step forward against the Sac Kingdom in half a year. To Linear, it wasn't because they were worried about the strength of the Greed Regiment, but rather because they were worried about the difference in national strength between the two kingdoms. But the more he understood this fact, the more humiliated he felt. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I will personally take back the Muerto Mountains. Under the urging of his personal guard, Linear snorted and looked at the distant Muerto Mountains one last time before returning to his tent. When he had just shaken off the snow on his body, the tent's curtain was opened again. The cold wind came in and Linear couldn't help shivering. When he was about to turn to reprimand someone, he found that it was Chief of Staff Ivy Joao who came in. Linear's reprimand turned into a question. "What? Is there something urgent?" Ivy Joao rubbed his hands. There wasn't a trace of worry on his face, rather there was a trace of joy. After warming his hands in the brazier in the tent, he carefully took out a stack of paper and handed it to Linear. Linear doubtfully looked at them and found that there were some strange drawings on them. They looked like blueprints of some kind of machine. "What is this thing?" Joao gave a laugh, Something that you've been thinking about. Linear's eyes instantly lit up. Could it be the blueprint for the magic trebuchet? That's right. Hearing Joao's answer, Linear hurriedly stood up and opened the blueprint, looking at it with rapt attention. However, he didn't know anything about this, so no matter how focused he was, he couldn't see through it. But from the drawings on the blueprint, he could see some clues. He could confirm that the thing described on it was indeed the magic trebuchet that the Lampari Kingdom's northern army took out last year and made the greedy legion suffer. They couldn't even defend a single position. Where did you get this thing? Linear asked. The staff officer department got it from the Lampuri Kingdom. This is just the copy I brought for you. Joao took the blueprint back from Linear's hands and carefully put it away. Joao carefully folded it. This is something that the staff officer spent a high price to get. It took quite a bit of effort for me to get this copy for you to see. Linear was a bit surprised. The staff officer really is skilled. For such an important blueprint, the Lampari Kingdom should be very strict with protecting it, but they actually managed to get their hands on it. Joao laughed. How they got it isn't related to us. The good news I want to tell you is that His Majesty has given the order to speed up the research on this thing. I think that it won't be long before we have a magic trebuchet to use. Linear didn't have any joy on his face, rather he deeply knit his brows. I'm not as optimistic as you. Didn't those fellows from the kingdom's magic court study it before, but what was the result? The test machine had smashed dozens of people to death. I don't think that they can really make it with just this blueprint. It's better to try than not to try. Joao shook his head. Otherwise, do you think we can beat those fellows from the Northern Army? Linear's face sunk, and after a while, he gave a sigh and slowly shook his head. These things are just too powerful, we can't stop them at all. There are many times that I've thought that if that Sui and the new flyer were in our Sac Kingdom, we would have already taken the Lampari Kingdom and wouldn't need to suffer here. It's a pity that that fellow is in the Lampari Kingdom, Joao said with a sigh, but it's a good thing that according to the news from the Magic Court, the research on this blueprint is going smoothly. We just have to patiently wait for the good news. Linear gave a cold snort. Then did they say how long we have to wait? Don't forget, there was news last year that the one in charge of the Lampari Kingdom's northern army is their eldest prince Eric. That kid is already planning to attack our Sac Kingdom in order to get some military merits to take the throne. I think that once winter is over, that kid won't be able to wait any longer. If we don't have a weapon to resist him at that time, could it be that we'll just watch as he attacks the kingdom? Joao said with a laugh, You don't need to worry too much about this. According to the information from the staff officers, Sui and the new flyer are on the side that supports Her Highness 70. That kid Eric drew a line between them and didn't buy any more military magic machines from the new flyer, so the Lampari Kingdom's northern army won't be as strong as last year. Linear shook his head with a frown. I really don't know what that kid is thinking. He clearly has such good military magic machines, but he's not using them. Could it be that he thinks that with a kid like him, he can defeat our hungry regiment? We can't underestimate him, Joao said with a serious expression. Joao said with a serious look, There are many large families in the Lampari Kingdom that support this kid, so they are very supportive of his attack on our Sac Kingdom. So the Lampari Kingdom's northern army that we met this time might be the one with the best supplies, so their battle strength can't be underestimated. As long as they aren't equipped with military magic machines, I'm not worried about the northern army's battle strength. Linear said with a disdainful look, If it was up to me, those fellows from the Lampari Kingdom's northern army might become weaker now that they can eat their fill and wear warm clothes. Adding in that idiot prince, it would be strange if they became stronger. No matter what, it's better to be cautious, Joao said. Of course I know this. Linear nodded. After thinking about it, he suddenly said, Actually, I strongly suggest that the staff officers think of a way to get rid of that kid named Sui. That kid is the biggest uncertain factor. If he makes some more powerful military magic machines and the Lampari Kingdom's people aren't as idiotic as that Prince Eric, our situation will really be dangerous. I'm afraid that won't work. Joao shook his head. The staff officers think that he has a lot of value, so if we can obtain the things that he and New Flyer have developed, it will be very beneficial to our Sac Kingdom. You have to understand that our Sac Kingdom's goal isn't just the Lampari Kingdom. Linear knit his brows in thought for a bit before saying with a sigh, I know that your words are very reasonable, but I feel that if we let that fellow continue to exist, it might ruin our plans in the end. Perhaps our Sac Kingdom will be defeated by the Lampari Kingdom in the end. Joao laughed and patted Linear's shoulder. You're thinking too much. The Lampari Kingdom's national strength is too lacking compared to our Sac Kingdom in the end. Moreover, they haven't even decided on the next king, so the kingdom isn't stable at all. Even if we have Sui and New Flyer, what kind of threat can they pose to us? Not to mention, the staff officers have already set their eyes on that kid Sui. Can he still play a new trick that we can't think of? Linear was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. I hope it's like this. Chapter 494. A medium-sized magic passenger car passed over the sandy river that was over 100 meters long and 10 meters wide. It came to a new station 2 kilometers away from the north gate of Banta City and stopped at a new checkpoint. Sevi's bright blue eyes were wide open as he looked out the window. Although there was a flow of people, it was very orderly and there wasn't a trace of chaos at all, causing his face to be filled with excitement. It took 4 days to go from his hometown in the north of the kingdom. First he took a horse carriage, and then he changed to a magic car, traveling over 1,000 kilometers to Banta City that his big sister had described countless times. Sevi was a bit worried that he wouldn't be able to adapt to life here. But just passing through that magnificent bridge had opened Sevi's eyes, and he felt that he was very lucky to be able to come to this city. Seeing this large station that not only had he never seen before, he had never thought of it before. Seeing the medium-sized transport magic cars going in and out, Sevi felt that Banta City really was the most advanced city that his big sister had described, a super city that was even a generation ahead of other places. Even Anvilmar City that he had stayed in last night, in Sevi's eyes, it was just a bit more prosperous. But in terms of shock, it couldn't compare to Banta City in front of him. Whether it was the smooth roads outside the station or the magic cars that flowed on the roads, it all showed that this was a city that was completely different from other places. What made Sevi feel even more was that the people here seemed to be in high spirits, full of energy and moving like the wind. They were far from the lifeless and soulless people he had seen along the way in his hometown and the people he had met along the way. All right, lost their souls, was what his big sister had said. Sevi didn't understand it before, but now that he saw the people of Banta City, he instantly understood the meaning behind it. Hey, Sevi, what are you in a daze for? Quickly get out. The parents beside him were already prepared to get out, but seeing that Sevi was still looking out the window, they patted him and urged him to get out. Sevi gave an "oh" sound before jumping out. At the age of 18, Sevi seemed to have endless energy every day. He snatched their luggage from his parents, carried it on his back, jumped out of the car, and ran to his sister who had already walked to the checkpoint. The prosecutor patiently explained, "Young Miss Akali, you are an employee of the New Flyer, so you don't need to be inspected. However, your parents and little brother have no records of living in Banta City, so they must be inspected. I ask you to understand." Akali frowned. "Why? They are my family. I can testify for them. Why do they need to be examined? Wasn't this an unnecessary move? There was no such rule last year." She had finally convinced her parents to bring her little brother from their hometown. She thought that she could easily settle down in Banta City and live a comfortable life, but she never thought that as soon as she arrived in Banta City, she would meet this kind of obstruction. She couldn't help feeling a bit angry. This is a new rule that the Lord City Lord issued this year. This checkpoint was also built because of this. The prosecutor knew that Akali was a high-level researcher of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce from her identity card, so he was very polite to Akali and patiently explained to her. This isn't aimed at anyone, it's just to better count the foreign population of Banta City and make it easier to manage. I think that a wise magician like young Miss Akali will understand, right? Hearing the prosecutor call her a wise magician and being very respectful, Akali naturally couldn't keep being angry. After thinking about it, she spread her hands and said, "All right, what do you want to inspect? Please hurry, I still need to bring them home to rest." Please wait a minute. Actually, this so-called inspection was just checking their luggage. Then they would check their identity to see if they had worked or lived in Banta City before. The entire process was very simple. When Akali's family was inspected, it took less than 5 minutes. Other than Akali, there weren't many people who had the confidence to question the prosecutor, so Akali's group had delayed the people behind them. But seeing how polite the prosecutor was to Akali, the others naturally understood that Akali's status wasn't low, so no one complained. When the family walked out of the station, Sevi turned to look at the long line of people at the checkpoint before looking at Akali. He couldn't help saying in an emotional voice, "Big sister, I thought that you were bragging before, but I never thought that you really were an important person in Banta City. Even this prosecutor is this polite to you." Akali giggled. "I'm not an important person, I'm just basking in the light of the new flyer. If you want to talk about important people, when you see Chairman Su and Her Highness, you'll know what a real important person is." Sevi's eyes lit up. "I can see Chairman Su and Her Highness? That would be great." Akali was a bit hesitant. It shouldn't be a problem to see Chairman Su, but as for Her Highness, it's hard to say. Sevi was a bit disappointed, but then he became excited. "Even if I can only see Chairman Su, he is my idol. I've always wanted to see him." Akali revealed a faint smile. "All right, Chairman Su is easy to see. If you want to see him, I'll take you to the company tomorrow, and you should be able to see him. As for now, let's go home and rest, Mom and Dad are both very tired." Sevi gave a strong nod. He tightened his luggage and looked around, but he was a bit confused. "Big sister, where are we going?" "What go? My new home is several kilometers away. It's fine if you walk there, but do you want Mom and Dad to walk there?" Akali glared at him. "Then what do we do?" "Wait." Akali left the three of them and came to an open space outside the station. There were several medium-sized passenger magic cars parked here. Seeing Akali come over, a middle-aged woman came forward to welcome her. "This young miss, do you want to rent a car? Come and sit in my car. As long as it's in Banta City, we'll go wherever you want." Akali looked at the sign on the magic car behind her and asked, "Is this a car from the Mercado Chamber of Commerce?" Right, we are a car from the Mercado Chamber of Commerce. Our company's cars are all reputable, there definitely won't be any problems." The middle-aged woman kept nodding. "All right, I'll rent one." "Rent one?" The middle-aged woman was surprised. "Young miss, you're planning on renting an entire car?" "That's right." Hearing this answer, the middle-aged woman's expression became more respectful. "May I ask where young miss is going?" "It's not far, it's the Dawn neighborhood in the new city." "Dawn neighborhood?" The middle-aged woman took a gasp and looked at Akali in surprise. Her eyes were a bit strange, but there was an exaggerated smile on her face. "So it's the Dawn neighborhood, no wonder. Akali was too lazy to care about the lust hidden in her smile. She turned to call her parents and her little brother Sevi to get in the car. They went around Banta City and headed to the Dawn neighborhood by the Sandy River in the new city to the west of the old city. When they were sitting in the car, Akali's parents and Sevi couldn't stop revealing looks of surprise. When the magic car drove into the Dawn neighborhood, the three of them were even more shocked. Akali's mother had a look of disbelief as she pulled Akali and asked, "Good daughter, could it be that the new house you bought is here? Such a beautiful house, how much did it cost?" Akali revealed a faint smile and patted the back of her hand as she comforted her. "Mom, you don't need to care about how much money it costs, you just need to be assured. Relax, I earn over 1,000 gold coins a year. It isn't much to buy a house like this." Although they had heard Akali mention her current income, this number was too far for her father, so they didn't feel that it was real at all. They thought that Akali was just comforting them or bragging. But now that they saw these houses, they really began to consider what Akali said. Earning over 1,000 gold coins a year? Wasn't this too exaggerated? It had to be known, with over 100 families in their village added together, their annual income was only over 1,000 gold coins. After a while, the magic car stopped in front of a 3-story villa by the river. Akali took out 5 gold coins to the middle-aged woman driving the car and jumped out first. She came to the door of the villa and opened her arms to her parents and Sevi as she said with a smile, "Dad, Mom, Sevi, this is our new home." Akali's parents and Sevi got out of the car, looking at the magnificent and beautiful villa in front of them in a daze. It was over 500 square meters of luxurious villa that they weren't willing to blink for a while. After a while, Akali's mother asked in a stuttering voice, "Daughter, is this really your house?" Akali shook her head with a faint smile. "No, Mom, you're wrong. This isn't my house, it's our house. Because our family will be living here in the future, living here." Akali's mother looked at the villa in a daze for a while before tears suddenly came out of her eyes and she said in a choked voice, I thought that I would be wandering outside in the future, but I never thought. I thought that I would be living in such a beautiful house, it really. Akali's father took his wife's shoulder and nodded to Akali as he said in a deep voice, "Akali, it's been hard on you." Seeing her parents like this, Akali's nose suddenly became stuffy, and a few tears couldn't help coming from the corners of her eyes. Only Sevi was carefree and didn't feel sad at all, rather his face was filled with excitement and joy. "Dad, Mom, big sister, what are you crying for? We have such a big and beautiful house to live in, we should be happy." Akali's father wiped the corner of his mouth and said with a sigh, "We were just thinking about settling down here and leaving our hometown, so we were a bit emotional." Sevi curled his lips. "What is there to be emotional about? We left that broken place because we couldn't take it anymore." Then, without waiting for his parents and Akali's reaction, Sevi rushed straight into the villa. Seeing his impatient appearance, Akali's father gave a sigh before revealing a smile. "Yes, anyway, we couldn't take it anymore, so there's nothing to be nostalgic about. Let's go and see our new home." Chapter 495. Seveni looked at the report in her hand and slightly knit her brows. "It seems like there are more foreigners entering Banta City this year compared to last year. This is just the rough count of the foreigners in the first half of the year, but it shows that there are over 50,000 foreigners who have entered Banta City. This doesn't include the people who can't be counted at all. If we count them all, it might be close to 100,000 people." Su-yi revealed a faint smile. "What is bad about this? Banta City is lacking people right now and just relying on the locals can't fill this large manpower gap, so we need foreigners to join in. Don't forget, at the peak of Banta City last year, there were over 200,000 foreigners. But based on the current trend, it might far surpass 200,000 this year. Perhaps it might even surpass 300,000. Seveni shook her head as she said this with a worried look. "The more the better. Sue gave an indifferent shrug. Not only our new flyer, I feel that all the companies in the city would be very happy with this situation. There's no other way, there really aren't enough people to use. Seveny glared at him. There's no need for you to care, of course you'll feel relaxed. You have to know that Banta City has less than 100,000 locals, but now there are suddenly 200,000. Or even 300,000 people from other places. As the city lord, I really feel a lot of pressure. Pressure is a good thing. Sue revealed a smile. Dear Highness, the more pressure there is, the more outstanding your abilities are, right? Think about it, if there are over 300,000 foreigners in Banta City this year, then the total population might even surpass Anvilmar City? Seveny gave a slight nod. According to last year's statistics, Anvilmar City has around 200,000 permanent residents. Adding in the foreigners, it should be around 400,000. So, if you can lead such a city to develop peacefully and normally, how admirable would that be? If you can accomplish this, I think that even those people who oppose you can only admire your ability to handle government affairs. This will be very helpful for you taking the throne. Sue said with a serious look. Ascend to the throne? Seveny gave a bitter laugh. She looked at the report in her hand and said with a sigh, in this preliminary report, there is a very strange problem. That is that most of the people who came this year came from the northwestern and northern provinces. Accurately speaking, they came from the borders of the kingdom near the Sac Kingdom. Sue narrowed his eyes and snorted lightly. Although the status of the civilians in the northern border is not high, it does not mean that they are idiots. Instead of staying there and being exploited by a certain prince to the point that he could not even sustain his life and might even face the danger of his life in the future, it was better to find a way to escape. And our Banta City is one of the best choices. Seveny looked at Sue with a bit of surprise. Where did you get this news? Sue shook his head. No, I didn't pay much attention to that. But a few days ago, the relatives of 2 researchers from our company's Academy of Magic moved over from the northern border, planning on settling in Banta City. When I saw them, I asked them about the situation in the north and why they moved to Banta City, so I know a bit about the situation. 2 researchers? Is it Chief Evita and Senior Researcher Akali? Seveny asked. Sue was surprised. Your Highness, you know quite a bit. Seveny revealed a faint smile. She didn't respond to the doubt in Sue's eyes, rather she pointed at the report in her hand and asked, Then Chairman Sue, there might be over 300,000 people coming to Banta City this year. Other than the 200,000 people working in Banta City last year, do you have confidence in digesting the extra close to 100,000 people? Sue knit his brows. This should be something for the Lord City Lord to consider. How is it related to me? Seveny revealed a sly smile. Who told your new flyer to be the closest partner of the City Lord Manor and Chairman Sue to be my most capable helper as the City Lord? Sue helplessly shook his head. I say, Lord City Lord, are you relying on me? So what if I am? Seeing Seveny's rare naughty smile, Sue rolled his eyes and stood up. This matter is related to the entire Banta City. We can't just let our new flyers company deal with it. We can't let those fellows outside off either. The 2 left Seveny's private office and came to the largest conference room in the City Lord Manor. The people sitting in the conference room were the chairman representatives of the large and small companies of Banta City. Not only was there the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Cruz, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Morgan, the Serank Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Rank, and the Armani Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Vincent. There were also the chairmen of the smaller companies. Even a small company like the Ireland Chamber of Commerce that hadn't even been in the city for 2 years had Vice Chairman Kovac appear at the table as a representative. Of course, his seat was in a corner, so it wasn't conspicuous at all. Seeing Seveny and Sue come in, the chairman representatives who had been discussing all stopped. Looking over Sue and Seveny, no one was surprised at all, rather they all revealed knowing smiles. Sue and Seveny had a close relationship. This was something that everyone in Banta City knew very well. Although today's meeting was proposed by Her Highness Seveny in the name of the City Lord Manor for the New Year's business plan, so all the companies of a certain size in Banta City were gathered. But of course she would talk to Sue in private ahead of time, so no one would have any objections to Sue's special treatment. Not to mention that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was in charge of the renovation of Banta City, just because the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had surpassed the Serac Chamber of Commerce, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, the Armani Chamber of Commerce, and the old super companies of Banta City, becoming the company that paid the most taxes in Banta City. Sue was qualified to receive this privilege. Although the conference table was filled with people and the room was filled, the first seat to the left of the main seat was left empty by everyone. Sue sat down without any courtesy and greeted the surrounding chairman representatives with a smile before turning to look at Seveny. Seveny, who was being looked at by everyone, wasn't nervous at all. After being the city lord for half a year, she was already used to the position of city lord. When facing the representatives of the large companies, she was very calm. She wasn't like a young girl who was in her early 20s at all, rather she was like a mature politician. Various chairmen and representatives of the companies, Happy New Year's. Seveny first gave her blessings before taking out the documents she had already prepared. She had her assistant distribute them before giving a short speech. Although the speech wasn't long, the content wasn't simple. In this short speech, Seveny praised the large companies for their contributions to Banta City last year and encouraged everyone to keep working hard in the new year. After that, she began to give specific requests. For example, in the new year, the City Lord's Manor asked the large companies to maintain their reputation and not harm the reputation of Banta City at all. Next, she asked the large companies to actively participate in the construction of Banta City, showing their social responsibility. On this point, Seveny emphasized New Flyer. She also mentioned that New Flyer had taken the initiative to donate 100 medium-sized passenger magic cars to the City Lord's Manor to strengthen public transport in Banta City. Hearing Seveny's words, the various chairmen all expressed that they would learn from New Flyer. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman Morgan took the initiative to build a rescue station outside the city, helping the citizens of Banta City who met difficulties. The Armani Chamber of Commerce's chairman Vincent was willing to provide winter clothes and bedding for all the people over 60 in Banta City. He would also provide support for the old people who didn't have anyone to support them, guaranteeing their basic living standards. As for the other companies, they all gave different amounts of free support according to the scale of their companies, which was considered responding to Seveny's call. After saying this, Seveny quickly brought the topic to a more practical topic. The first point was how to digest the large amount of foreign people that were about to enter Banta City. Hearing this question, the representatives of the various chambers of commerce all laughed in relief. Everyone expressed that no matter which company it was, they were all lacking people. Everyone wished that there would be more people coming to Banta City. Not to mention 100,000 more people than last year, even if it was 200,000 more people, everyone was confident in taking it all. However, at this time, Sue raised a question. Everyone, please calm down. Sue stood up and looked around. When everyone calmed down, he focused his eyes on him and said with a serious look, I understand everyone's desire for people, and I know that all the companies in the city are lacking people. But I think everyone has forgotten a very important problem. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman Morgan asked with a frown, What problem? Sue revealed a faint smile. The problem is that population isn't equal to manpower. Chapter 496. Everyone was stunned. What does this mean? Chairman Morgan asked. It's very simple. To give an example, let's take Chairman Morgan's company. Do you think that the work in your mines can be done by any person? Sui asked back. Chairman Morgan immediately shook his head. Of course not. Although there are some simple physical work in the mines, there are many dangerous jobs. If you don't teach them first, there will definitely be problems. That's right. I'll give another example. Isn't everyone familiar with the magic car now? Sui asked. Everyone revealed smiles. The magic car had already been out for half a year. Although it wasn't long, because the magic car compared to the horse carriages, whether it was in terms of speed, load, or cost, all the companies in Banta City had realized the benefits of the magic car and now accepted using the magic car to replace horse carriages. If it wasn't for the new Flyer's magic car workshop not being able to keep up, there wouldn't be horse carriages in Banta City anymore, and they would all be replaced by the magic car. The magic car needs a driver's license, or to be more specific, one needs to have a certain level of driving skills before they can drive it. Even after obtaining a driver's license, if one wants to become a skilled driver, they still need to spend time to become familiar with the car. So this isn't a job that can be done by just grabbing a person. Sui continued. Chairman Su, I understand what you mean. Chairman Vincent took over for him. Chairman Morgan said, You're saying, although there are more people coming to Banta City this year, there aren't many that are useful? It doesn't have any meaning to our companies? It's pretty much like this, but it's not right to say that it doesn't have any meaning. Sui said with a smile. For example, some simple jobs that don't require too much skill can be given to the newcomers. Moreover, I've just discussed this with Her Highness, and we're planning on implementing a vocational training system in Banta City, so that everyone in Banta City can master one or several vocational skills. This isn't just good for these people, it's also good for our Banta City. Vocational skills training. The representatives of the various chambers of commerce looked at each other and nodded simultaneously. Your Highness, how are you planning on implementing this vocational training system? Chairman Rank turned to ask Seveni. Seveni revealed a faint smile. Initially speaking, I'm planning on using the name of the City Lord Manor to build a large vocational training academy outside the city. Your companies can set up a training spot in this academy and train the vocational skills your company need. Then what about the people trained? Chairman Morgan immediately asked. What if we spend a lot of effort to train him, but he wants to go to another chamber of commerce? Wouldn't we suffer a loss? If you can't pull people to your company during the training, wouldn't that be considered a failure? Seveni asked back with a faint smile. Chairman Morgan was slightly startled. He laughed dryly and didn't say anything else. Other than the vocational skill training, the City Lord's Mansion will also introduce a more detailed and comprehensive vocational skill level evaluation. As for the evaluation standard, it will be based on the vocational skill level evaluation for the magic machines released by the new Flyer. As for the specific evaluation standard, it will need to be discussed by everyone here. Seveni said. Everyone's eyes fell onto Sui again. Of course they knew that this suggestion was definitely made by Sui. But to everyone, this suggestion was very necessary. With a clear standard, when the large companies recruited workers, they would save a lot of effort. They wouldn't need to spend a large amount of time and effort to retrain people. Connecting this to the vocational skill training system that Seveni mentioned just now, it could be seen that if the two were combined, it would be very helpful to the large companies of the city. Therefore, after thinking about it for a while, everyone expressed their approval of these two proposals. Following this, Seveni announced some of the business development plans for Banta City that the City Lord's Mansion had decided on. After discussing it with everyone, the meeting was over. Although Seveni only announced some general plans in this meeting and rarely revealed the specifics, for the large and small companies of the city, This was very useful information. It would make it easier for them to adjust and respond to the City Lord's Mansion's plans this year. In short, 70, who had taken over as Count Stark's City Lord, had a positive attitude towards Banta City's business development. Just based on this, it was enough to make everyone feel assured. So after the meeting was over, when they left the City Lord's mansion, everyone had sincere smiles on their faces. Everyone, how about we use this chance to find a place to gather so that everyone can continue discussing? What do you all think? When they came out of the City Lord's mansion, Chairman Rank suddenly made this suggestion. Everyone stopped and looked at each other before breaking out in laughter, immediately agreeing to Chairman Rank's suggestion. Thus, the group of people rushed to a restaurant under the name of the Serene Chamber of Commerce, which was newly built in the new district outside the city, and booked the entire restaurant. A group of chairman representatives gathered. Of course, the main topic wasn't to eat. After taking their seats, everyone found their targets and began to talk. There were many people who wanted to find Sue-E as soon as possible, but Sue-E found Chairman Rank first. Chairman Rank, as for the channel to sell things to the Sack Kingdom that you mentioned last time, I have a new suggestion. When Sue-E spoke, Chairman Rank was stunned. He had indeed mentioned this matter to Sue-E before, but Sue-E didn't care at all. He thought that Sue-E wasn't interested, so he didn't mention it again. He never thought that not only did Sue-E take the initiative to mention this, he even said that he had a new suggestion? Could it be that he had a new channel to the Sack Kingdom? I do have a new channel, the key is in Soul City. Sue-E said with a nod. Soul City? Chairman Rank was surprised. He suddenly remembered that last year, Sue-E had taken a trip to Soul City. Soul City was one of the cities in the north that was closest to the Sack Kingdom, so it wasn't strange that Sue-E had found a channel to the Sack Kingdom. Alright, what new suggestion do you have? Sue-E had a strange smile on his face. Chairman Rank, I want to ask, how many products does your company sell to the Sack Kingdom through this channel each year? Chairman Rank slightly knit his brows. He wanted to say that this was a trade secret of the Serene Chamber of Commerce. How could he easily tell you? But seeing the strange expression on Sue-Yi's face, Chairman Rank thought about it before replying. In a year, it should be around 200 to 300,000 gold coins. It isn't much, it's just another channel. Sue-Yi nodded. He wasn't surprised, but the smile on his face became even wider. In that case, President Rank, have you ever thought of making the scale of this event bigger? For example, 2 to 3 million gold coins a year? Chairman Rank looked at Sue-Yi in surprise. After looking at the strange smile on his face for a while, his heart skipped a beat. What? Chairman Sue, do you have a good suggestion? Sue-Yi gave a laugh before approaching Chairman Rank and talking in a low voice. After a while, Chairman Rank left with a look of disbelief and pleasant surprise. The Ireland Chamber of Commerce's Vice Chairman Kovac, who had been waiting on the side, immediately came over. Chairman Sue. Kovac had an exaggerated flattering smile on his face. Can I talk to you for a bit? Sue-Yi gave a slight nod and calmly looked at him. Towards this Kovac, Sue-Yi's impression of him was that he was very cunning, so he never liked him. If it wasn't for the fact that he was Freeman's most capable assistant, Sue-Yi didn't want to see him at all. Kovac was clearly clear on Sue-Yi's attitude towards him. Seeing Sue-Yi's cold reaction, he couldn't help feeling a bit awkward. After giving 2 dry laughs, he continued, Chairman Sue, I'm here today to discuss 2 things with you. Unspeak. Sue-Yi calmly replied. This. The first thing is, our company has received many orders from other cities. Of course, they are all related to magic machine parts. Kovac said. This is a good thing. Sue-Yi nodded. Sue-Yi nodded. I've always said to Freeman that I hope that your Ireland Chamber of Commerce can leave Banta City, and it would be best if you could sell your parts to every part of the Lampari Kingdom. Now that there are orders from other cities, it means that you're doing very well. Many thanks for Chairman Su's support. Kovac nodded. After pausing for a bit, he revealed an awkward expression. But because of these orders, our company has encountered a problem. Sui looked at him. What? You're worried that you can't handle it? Kovac was a bit surprised before nodding. Yes. With our company's current production capacity, it's already very hard for us to finish your new flyer's orders. We don't have the ability to finish more orders. You just said that you've received many orders from other cities. Sui cut him off. Kovac hesitated for a bit before giving a forced nod. Yes. But Chairman Su, you don't need to worry. We will definitely finish your new flyer's orders first. Moreover, we will use the best materials and the best workers. I'm not worried about this. Kovac shook his head. But based on the meaning of your words, after finishing our company's orders, you seem to have some new ideas? Kovac gave a dry laugh and turned his head before looking at Sui with an awkward look. Chairman Su, we've received many orders from other cities with great difficulty, so we want to seize this chance to spread our company throughout the Lampari Kingdom. Haven't you always told us that you want the magic machine industry to take root in more places in the kingdom? If we sell our components to other places, I'm sure it'll be very helpful to your idea. And, speak directly, are you planning to stop supplying parts to our company? Sui cut him off again. Chapter 497. Being seen through by Sui, Kovac was stunned for a while before saying with an awkward look, Chairman Su, we're not. No, we're just. It's hard to get this chance, so we want to grab it. It's not that we're not willing to supply your new flyer parts, really. Believe me, we will definitely process the last batch of parts with the best quality. Definitely not. Sui raised his hand to cut him off again. All right, there's no need to say anything, I understand your meaning. Sui revealed a smile, not showing any anger like Kovac was worried about. I don't blame you, but Kovac, tell me, is this your idea or Freeman's idea? The awkward look on Kovac's face became even stronger, but he still honestly replied, this is my idea. Freeman doesn't agree to this at all. Sui nodded. Freeman was an honest person, he had always been grateful to Sui, so of course he wouldn't give up on the new flyer order because of orders from other places. But it was precisely because of this that a shrewd person like Kovac could easily gain control of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. On the contrary, Freeman's authority in the Chamber of Commerce wasn't as great as Kovac's, which led to the Ireland Chamber of Commerce's final decision. Sui thought for a bit before saying, all right, I understand your choice and I also support this choice. Because from my point of view, I hope that the magic machine industry can spread across the Lampari Kingdom and even the signs. The more companies like you that can leave Banta City, the more it helps me achieve my goal. Kovac kept nodding. Right, Chairman Su, I also have this idea. Your new flyer has even developed in other countries, so although our Ireland Chamber of Commerce can't compare to the new flyer, we still have this ambition, right? This idea isn't wrong. Sui nodded in praise before changing the topic. But Kovac, I have to remind you of something. If you look at the long-term development of your company, being in a rush to break away from our new flyer isn't a wise choice. Kovac had a look of disapproval on his face before he revealed an awkward smile. Chairman Su, you're mistaken. How could we possibly want to break away from your new flyer? There's definitely no such thing. It's just that this is a good chance and our company's production capacity can't keep up, so we'll stop supplying new flyer first. When our production capacity catches up, I'll definitely want to continue cooperating with your new flyer. Sui revealed a smile and didn't comment. All right, since you've already decided, I don't have any objections. After you complete this batch of orders, I will look for the other chambers of commerce in the city to solve the problem of the parts production. That's right, you said that you wanted to discuss two things with me, so this is the first thing. What is the other thing? The second thing. Kovac looked over before saying with a laugh, Chairman Su, do you think the components our company produces in the future, can we not follow the standards set by your new flyer? Sui looked at him in surprise. Why do you have this idea? Because I went to many magic machine companies in other cities last year and found that many of them didn't follow the standards of our Banta city, but they still sold very well. If we want to make components for them, if we follow the standards of Banta city, it won't match. So I was thinking that for the orders of the other companies, we don't need to follow the standards of our Banta city, right? Kovac looked at Sui with an expectant look. Although in theory, the current standards of Banta city were just a suggestion of the new flyer, which was a mandatory rule of the Banta City Magic Machine Business Union, there weren't strict standards. So it wasn't a big deal for the Ireland Chamber of Commerce not to follow this rule. But out of fear of the new flyer, Kovac felt that he should obtain Sui's agreement. Sui looked at Kovac with a ghost of a smile. When you went to those companies, did you really think that their magic machines were good? Of course it can't compare to the Frestek brand magic machines. Kovac firmly replied. Kovac immediately replied, but I felt that they weren't worse than the magic machines of our Banta city, so they sold quite well there. Sui waved his hand with a smile. All right, since you've already made your decision, I don't have any objections. This standard isn't enforced right now, so if there's no problem with your Ireland Chamber of Commerce not following this standard, it isn't impossible. Kovac looked at the expression on Sui's face and carefully asked, Chairman Su, you're really not angry? Sui was instantly happy. Why would I be angry? This is the decision of your Ireland Chamber of Commerce. As a peer, I can only give you some suggestions and can't do anything to you. Of course, as a peer, I have to give you some advice. Please speak. To produce any product, especially industrial products, there needs to be a standard. The standard doesn't just bring restrictions, it also brings advantages. Perhaps you can't understand it now, but I believe that you'll understand soon. Sui said with a serious look. Kovac still had a look of disapproval, but Sui was too lazy to explain to him. It was like he had just said, this was the decision of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. At least he didn't have a way to punish them right now. Although with the new flyer and Sui's current position in Banta City, they had many ways to make the Ireland Chamber of Commerce suffer, but Sui wasn't willing to do this. Letting them suffer losses and experience the benefits of the standard was much better than Sui forcefully stopping them. Moreover, to put it cruelly, even if the Ireland Chamber of Commerce suffered losses, it would be a bloody example for the other companies. New Flyer could support an Ireland Chamber of Commerce, so of course they could support even more Ireland Chamber of Commerce. The only one that Sui felt pity for was the honest freeman. Seeing Kovac easily turn to leave, Sui shook his head with a smile. He turned to the group of people who had been waiting for him for a long time. The matters that these chairman representatives discussed with Sui were mostly related to the supply of New Flyer's magic machines. Because Banta City's magic machine industry was developing well, most of the companies that entered this industry in the past 2 years had earned quite a bit. Now that Her Highness Seveni had expressed her support for Banta City's business development, especially the magic machine industry, these companies naturally wanted to expand their production scale. Moreover, there were more people coming into Banta City this year, so it could relieve some of the pressure on manpower. This was a very good chance to expand their production scale. So when these chairman representatives came looking for Sui, it was to give the Frestek Chamber of Commerce more orders for production magic machines, preparing to expand their production scale. Sui had just casually chatted with these people and had already confirmed over 100 orders for magic lathes, magic presses, magic punch presses, and other kinds of magic machines. There were even several companies that directly requested an entire production line from Xinfei merchants. Compared to their production scale from before, this step could be considered a large one. Su Yi naturally agreed to all of them. In the end, with a rough calculation, in just this short conversation, Su Yi had actually received over 500,000 gold coins worth of orders for New Flyer. This order could be considered New Flyer's first business of the new year, so it could be considered a good start. After everyone left, Chairman Cruz came over with an emotional look. Chairman Su, there are many times when I envy you. Just sitting here, there will be business that comes to you. If our company can have this kind of popularity, I'll be happy even if I die tomorrow. Su Yi rolled his eyes at him. It's like your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce can't even open a pot. It's fine if you pretend in front of others, but why are you pretending in front of me? I know that just last year, the Kingdom of Ruhr signed an agreement with your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build a total of 1,000 kilometers of road. The total amount of money involved in this agreement is over 4 million gold coins. Hey, Chairman Su, the total amount and profit are two different things. Don't tell me you don't know. Chairman Cruz had a wronged expression on his face. If your New Flyer sells something worth 500,000 gold coins, you might be able to get 400,000 gold coins from it. If our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce builds 4 million gold coins worth of roads, we might not even be able to make 400,000 gold coins from it. Then what about the development of high-end villas in the cities connected by roads? Don't tell me you won't make much money from it. Su Yi laughed. Haha. Chairman Cruz raised his head and laughed dryly, but he didn't directly answer Su Yi's question. Su Yi shook his head. He thought that real estate was a profiteering industry on Earth, but he never thought that it would be the same in signs. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce developed a high-end villa community by the Sandy River in Banta City's new city district. Each villa sold for an average price of 9,000 gold coins. According to Su Yi's estimates based on the various materials, the cost of a villa was around 4,000 gold coins. Even adding in the cost of labor and the cost of buying land from the city lord's manor by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the cost of each villa wouldn't exceed 6,000 gold coins. Calculating it all, just a single villa from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would earn over 3,000 gold coins. There were a total of 188 villas in the community. Calculating it all, just this community would earn over 600,000 gold coins. This was just a small community. If the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce built 2 residential communities in Sultan City and Karma City were included, if they were all sold, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would earn close to 2 million gold coins in profit. Then adding in the income from the roads built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce last year, the total profit of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce this year was enough to surpass any other company in Banta City other than the New Flyer. Chairman Su, it isn't like you don't know that although we earn a lot, we also spend a lot. Moreover, not every place is earning money, there are some places that are losing money. For example, the investment in the Black Rice Wasteland, we're currently losing quite a bit. Hearing Chairman Cruz finally mention the Black Rice Wasteland, Su Yi slightly knit his brows. The Beastman race's territory was really worrisome. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.